Now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, our intern Trenton Craxner on the other side of the glass. We've got a full show coming your way over the next 4 hours right here on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. We are so excited that you are here with us, whether you're listening on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, checking us out online at 580wibw.com or on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We've got plenty of Royals baseball to get to today. Heck of a win last night for the Royals over the Detroit Tigers. It is the second best start for the Royals since they were founded as a franchise. Incredible what they have been able to do. We will talk about that big win last night. A couple of guys who have been especially hot as of late. Trenton found some stats on Michael Massey we're going to get to. Also, how about a pretty exciting Big 12 baseball game, a Sunflower Showdown earlier today? We will touch on that. Some updates to the Royals bullpen, some NFL to get to. Who are the teams that have a chance to usurp the Chiefs at the top of the NFL standings and as the number one Super Bowl contenders? We'll get to that. Couple of older Chiefs players also getting a little recognition from Pro Football Focus today. We'll break down their list of the top 30 players over 30 years old. Michael Swain is going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour today. Plenty of 580 Sports Talk headlines. What is wrong with you? Random Question Tuesday. It is all on tap today here on 580 Sports Talk. Also, I should note, 3 o'clock hour. Be listening. In the 3 o'clock hour, don't know when, but in the 3 o'clock hour, we've got a family 4-pack of Royals tickets to give away for tomorrow's finale against the Tigers. Cole Reagans versus Tarek Skubal, a family 4-pack of tickets courtesy of our friends at DM Injury Law. That will be given away coming up in the 3 o'clock hour today. So be listening for your chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets. Also, before we get started, a fun piece of news and programming notes for you guys. Coming up on Thursday, 580 Sports Talk will be live from the West Ridge Mall, Sounded like Daffy Duck there for a second. From the West Ridge Mall for the Topeka Catbackers stop. The Catbackers will be coming to Topeka. They will be at West Ridge Mall coming up on Thursday. All sorts of K-State coaches, broadcasters, everybody you know and love from K-State Athletics is going to be there at West Ridge Mall, and we will be broadcasting 580 Sports Talk live from there as well coming up on Thursday. So we are very much looking forward to that a little bit later on this week. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight as well. Last night, heck of a night for the Kansas City Royals. It was the big inning that was the difference maker for the Royals last night. 1 run in the second, 1 run in the third, and then dropped the hammer in the 6th inning with 6 runs in that frame. We talked, I think it was yesterday on the show, about the idea of keeping the line moving and having guys 1 through 9 where you think, get on, move them over, knock them in, get on, move them over, knock them in.
Post the crooked number.
The first 7 batters of the inning for the Royals in the 6th yesterday all reached base safely. I believe it was 6 hits and 1 walk. Maybe it was 5 hits and 2 walks. Either way, 7 straight batters got on. And then the only reason they made the first out of the inning was Bobby Witt Jr. hit a sacrifice fly to knock in a run. Awesome inning overall for the Royals.
Kansas City area on Kansas City area crime, too. They did that to Shawnee Mission East's own Joey Wentz last night.
Yeah, tough.
Who come in really pitching well out of the Tiger bullpen, and they jumped all over him. I don't think he recorded an out.
There were a couple of Tigers who had KC area connections. If I remember correctly, there was someone else who was from Lee Summit who pitched for the Tigers last night.
Alec Lang,
yeah. So roughing up the hometown kids that Detroit brought out to the mound yesterday.
So I want to talk about a broader trend here based on that performance. But to talk about the trend, I have to talk about a couple of folks that my wife and I encountered when we were at the Royals game on Saturday. An older couple that was sitting in front of us, and they are clearly season ticket holders. And in the 6th inning, the gentleman of the couple turned to my wife and I and said, and we have a tradition here where the 6th inning, we go to our lucky M&Ms. We've been doing this since we've been coming to games in the 2000s. And his wife chimed in to say, it's gotten us through a lot of really lousy baseball. We've been doing this since Keila Kaiihue was there, and he sucked. I'm not kidding you. She brought up, unprompted, Keila Kaiihue. She was remembering some guys. It really made me like this couple a great deal. Anyway, sixth inning, lucky M&Ms. You eat M&Ms in the sixth inning, good things happen. Well, that night, on that Saturday, Royals played it a run with Nelson Velasquez driving in a run.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they had a big sixth inning on Sunday. Vinny Pasquantino's pinch hit 3-run triple. That would happen in the sixth inning. And last night, the 6-run sixth inning. The Royals as a team in the sixth inning of games this year are batting .325 with a .412 on base and a .550 slug.
That's crazy.
That looks like a prime Ted Williams slash line. Like something Barry Bonds would have done pre-steroids.
Yeah.
Like, that is preposterous that the Royals are having that much success in the sixth inning. Now, what part of the game typically, that's a dumb way to ask the question. Let me try again. What part of the game is the sixth inning? It's the sixth inning. But the sixth inning, the stage of the game you're in, you are usually seeing a starter by that point. If you're seeing the starting pitcher, you're seeing him the third time. Or if you're seeing a relief pitcher at that point, you're probably not seeing one of the top end guys. You're not seeing the closer. You're not seeing the top setup man. You're not seeing the fireman or whatever terminology you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time to strike, is the sixth inning. And the Royals are striking. When we talked about, it just feels like they are so opportunistic that they are putting together big innings and putting crooked numbers up on the board when they have the occasion to do it. When was their big rally on Friday night, on reunion night, too? You can go back. When did they score all their runs? It was the sixth inning in that game, too.
Yeah.
So on this homestand, it's really been the sixth inning. But all year long, they have taken advantage of the opportunity within a game to either get at a tired starter or to get at the soft underbelly of another team's bullpen. Opportunistic offense. That is what has really highlighted this Royals start.
And it's been, again, different guys who've been able to do it. Yesterday, it was the whole cast. 7 different Royals had hits yesterday. 3 different guys had multiple hits, including Michael Massey, who has been red hot. And we've kind of made the official line of demarcation of who is contributing to the offense and who is not, the 5-hole for the Royals this year. Top 5 doing great, bottom 4 not doing so well. Well, that top 5 has, in the batting order, has included Michael Massey for the majority of the season up to this point. Trenton saw these from Jake Eisenberg, the Royals play-by-play broadcaster on the Royals Radio Network. 16 plate appearances for Michael Massey in this homestand so far. 8 for 14 at the plate, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 2 walks, including 1 intentionally. He has scored 6 times. He's knocked in 3 runs. He has not struck out a single time. And in each of the last 4 games, he has reached base multiple times and scored at least 1 run. That is what he has done in these last 4 games. Now, 4 games is a cool little quirk. That's not even a sample size. That's just a little stretch of fun baseball. But he's been really good. He has been a legitimate positive contributor pretty much all year while playing a decent second base in the field as well. He has been a major asset.
And you can play him every day because you don't have to platoon him against left-handed pitching. He's done some damage against left-handers. He hit the homer off of which lefty was it over the weekend that he hit the homer off of? That's Sears.
I think, was that Sunday?
Yeah. Sunday.
Sears.
Yeah. He homered off of Sears, the lefty.
Yeah.
So you don't have to platoon him. You don't have to mess around with his at-bats. Like, you can play him against lefties. You can play him against righties. This is of a piece with his trajectory last year where he was so bad in April. And you can't overstate how bad Michael Massey was last April. He was striking out like 98% of his at-bats. Like, hyperbole almost unnecessary to really describe how bad Massey was in the start of the season. But he really came on, started to get to his power. He was better in the second half last year. And it looks like after coming off of the back injury and getting a bit of a late start to this season, he's consolidated those gains from last year. The strikeouts haven't been a big problem, and he's getting to that power. And the Royals aren't going to be a team with a bunch of 30 home run guys or maybe not even one 40 home run guy. But if they can get 15-ish home runs from Maikel Garcia, if they could get 15 to 20-ish from Michael Massey, like that sort of power dispensation across your top 5, where we know Salvi's going to get his, and it's been a bit of a slow start power-wise for Bobby Witt Jr., but he's going to get into the 20s, and Vinny Pasquantino is going to hit 20, 25 home runs. if you've got your top 5 guys all being that kind of a power threat, just makes the lineup that much more capable of, again, putting up the crooked numbers. That is how these Royals are winning baseball games. Striking while the iron is hot and putting crooked numbers up when they get the opportunity.
I have a question to pose to you guys.
Please.
So I was watching the national broadcast on FS1, the third broadcast that the Royals have had broadcast nationally, second on FS1.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember who the broadcasters were off the top.
It was Kevin Kugler, and I don't remember who was
Tom Verducci.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Verducci.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Weird crew.
Yeah, that's why I didn't remember it.
Mhm.
They were talking about just the resurgence of the Royals this year and our fans buying into it. That was a big topic that they talked about across multiple innings when I was tuning in last night. While we don't know their TV numbers across Bally Sports, according to ESPN's attendance mark, they're 26th in attendance at 16.8 is the average.
It's actually lower attendance to average attendance at this point this year than it was last year.
That's like
by like 400 fans, but still it's
right.
lower.
Are people buying into them right now or not? I don't that's what I don't get. I thought their attendance would be around 20,000.
It's actually fascinating that you bring this up, Spencer. I saw this earlier today. I think it was Craig Brown, a friend of the program, Craig Brown from Into the Fountains. And yes, it was Craig who actually wrote about this and wrote that historically speaking, this is actually fairly common, that it takes quite a while for attendance to tick up along with an increase in winning. Here's part of the blurb that Craig wrote. First, attendance always lacks when a team is on the rise. It happened in 2014 on the August game against the A's when the Royals moved into first place in the Central. So this is August of 2014. We knew the Royals were at least competitive at that point. They only drew 21-4, which that's what they were drawing this weekend against the A's, fittingly enough.
That was about the average, yeah.
Says that was a Monday, okay? Mondays, maybe you don't get the best attendance. Fine. On Friday, September 12th, 2014, when they were in a tie for first in the division, on the cusp of their first postseason appearance in 29 years, again, a Friday, 19,000. They went under 20K in that game. The attendance bounce comes the season after you put together a winning campaign or an October run. Secondly, the Bally's broadcast situation has really hurt this team specifically and baseball in general. I think I think it won't take a full season to see the attendance tick up. I do think we'll be seeing numbers consistently, 22, 23, 24 as we get further into the summer, assuming the Royals continue to win. I do think it does have something to do with the fact that you can't see them on TV very easily.
There are 100 reasons. There are 100 different things you point to. You can point to how the stadium situation was handled, the stadium vote, and there are people that maybe aren't happy with John Sherman and don't want to make him any money right now. You can point to the fact that it's hard for people to watch this team on TV, so they haven't quite embraced it. And maybe some people, more casual fans, still aren't really aware of what this team is doing and how much fun it's been to see them do it. The other problem that is, I think, a little bit unique to Kauffman Stadium, a lot of times, and I think Craig spoke to this in his piece as well, what drives the immediate increase in attendance at games are people deciding day of, hey, I want to go see the Royals. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to go see the home team. They're red hot. Good pitching matchup. It's going to be good weather. Let's go see the home team. Walk-up ticket sales. Not a thing, really, at Kauffman Stadium. You don't do that so much because just to get to the parking lot and walk up, you got to pay, right?
Yeah, you have to commit to it.
Yes, you have to be all the way pot committed. It is not like deciding on a beautiful day in downtown San Diego. Like, oh, we're near the Gaslamp District, teams in town. Let's go buy some tickets. Mm-hmm. Hey, they're playing well. Or in Denver or in Cincinnati or anywhere where you have that ballpark in proximity to where people are. It's going to be a different factor. I don't want to overstate that by talking too much about it, but that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Where you see the substantial growth in tickets sold is season tickets. And not a lot of people buying season tickets going into this year for a team that just lost 109 games. That's just not going to be. Now, you might have, if this season plays out the way that it has so far, you'll sell a lot more season tickets next year. You'll have higher attendance numbers for next season. You will get that bump eventually. But the short-term bump, there are a lot of reasons why maybe it hasn't happened quite yet. You also have to consider, I think, that you haven't gotten the big box office draws to town yet. Like you haven't had the teams where the teams come to visit where you're going to draw substantial crowds just to see them. Like
I think the Yankees come in the summer, right?
They come in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. Like last year, you'd already had Atlanta in town, and Atlanta's got a nationwide fan base. They were a Superstation team all those years. They were, defending American League or National League champs, or had a great year in 2022. They're going to draw real well on an April weekend in a way that like Oakland or Baltimore are not.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So yeah, there are a lot of different factors behind this, but I can just tell you anecdotally the way people are responding to us talking about the Royals, the way the more people are talking about them in our YouTube live chat, more people are texting about them, more people are calling to try and win tickets. Like there has been a response. It's just hasn't manifested itself in that attendance column in the box score for, again, a variety of different reasons. And some are within the team's control and some are not.
And I would say that, honestly, attendance might be a problem across Major League Baseball. You have one of your best teams right now with the youngest upside, the Baltimore Orioles. They're not even in the top half of attendance.
Got a beautiful park, too.
Flip side on this, MLB Communications yesterday, attendance for 2024 is up 2.1% league-wide.
That's funny. I was just looking at the attendance numbers, and I was looking at see where they were, and it's just interesting. Like even the Orioles are at 17. I would thought they would have been in the top 12.
That is kind of interesting. I do think that this is going to shift, assuming that the Royals keep winning. And Dan, you've got a good point about the quality of teams that are coming to town. Next month, when the schedule does get difficult, the Padres are maybe not a huge brand, if you want to use that phrase, but they got a lot of players that you might want to see. I mean, they've got plenty of talent on the team. The Yankees are going to be in town for 4 games. People are going to come out and are going to want to see that. You've got 4-game divisional series at the end of the month of June. Come July, you've got divisional matchup against the White Sox, who are terrible, but it's the divisional matchup. It's probably the closest thing the Royals have to an actual rival these days. Cubs are coming to town for 3 games at the end of July. Those are going to be probably close to sellouts, honestly. I don't know how many will be Royals fans. There's going to be a lot of traveling fans, but those games are going to be full. So you're going to get more of those kinds of teams coming to town later in the year. And again, if you keep winning, people are going to come out. They are going to be interested in sticking it out. Real quick, Michael Wacha yesterday. 3rd straight, really strong outing for him. Last 3 times out, 6 or more innings in all 3 of them, 19 total innings pitched, and he has only given up 5 earned runs over that time.
And 6 is the magic number. Like starting pitchers giving you 6 innings, it lessens the load on the bullpen. And you want to talk about the 6th inning from a Royals offensive perspective, how fruitful that's been for them, because they've beaten up on tiring starters, or the flip side of that is they've gotten to go to work on the 5th or 6th, 7th best guy in an 8-man bullpen. The Royals aren't giving you that chance. Like Wacha, his pitch count was pretty reasonable going into the 6th. It wasn't like he was trying to grind through the 6th at 95 pitches. Like he went into the 6th, I think at like 80 some, and was able, as a result of that, to work into the 7th inning, give them those 7 innings. And with the lead where it was, you go to Tyler Duffy, and he wasn't obviously very good yesterday, but
no,
Duffy and Stratton are able to close it out. So you don't have to lean on Schreiber. You don't have to lean on MacArthur. You've hardly had to use these guys this week, and you're 4-0 anyway on the homestand. So that is such a big part of why this team has been as successful as it has been. Those starters being able to get you to and through the 6th inning, and in Wacha's case last night, longer than that.
Shoot, he had, if I'm counting correctly here, he only had 69 pitches going into the 7th inning.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about
his final number was 89. Yeah, he had under 70 pitches through 6 innings.
Yeah, he was super efficient.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a lot of strikeouts last night. That's kind of the trade-off, right? Like it's almost like you can be efficient or you can strike out a bunch of guys. It doesn't typically go both ways. Like Lugo was at 99, 95 pitches, something like that. He was over 95 when they pulled him at 5 2/3 on Saturday, but he'd struck out 10 guys.
If Marsh is able to have a great night tonight, obviously we'll talk more about the game tonight later on. that'll be a whole rotation through where it's
Yeah.
great baseball from your starters.
Yeah, all 5. If he can pitch well tonight, yeah.
And it builds. Like that's the kind of thing when you're on a successful team, it builds. You pass the baton, and then the ace pitches well. The number 2 guy goes and strikes out 10. The homestand lined up really nice for this too, right? Because you had the off day to kind of settle everything down, and then your ace starting on a Friday night. And Reagan's pitch is great. Passes the baton to Lugo, who's excellent, strikes out 10. Pass the baton to Singer, 6 great innings, 1 run, strikes out 9. Pass the baton to Waka, gives you 7. Now you pass the baton to the kid, Marsh. Let's see how he fares against this Detroit lineup that's gettable. It's not a great lineup. Kerry Carpenter swinging a good bat. Everybody else, it's a gettable lineup.
No, in fact, Jake, I'm sorry to cut you guys off, but Jake and Stu on the radio broadcast last night, they were talking about, hey, this Tigers team is pretty good, but they're good because they pitch really well. Yes. And they've gotten really good, similar to the Royals have a better offense, but they've gotten really good starting pitching, especially this year. Their offense is, it's not good. And by the way, you know what helps a starter's pitch count? Facing Javier Baez. Michael Waka faced Javi Baez 3 times last night. 7 pitches, 5 outs in 3 at-bats. He grounded into 2 double plays, and then first pitch swinging also grounded out. 7 pitches, 5 outs in 3 at-bats. That should be impossible. I love my guy Javi, but good Lord, he has been terrible.
It's not like he's a fundamentally different player. He just the good doesn't happen often enough to outweigh all that swing and miss.
No. Swing and miss at everything. You don't need to throw him a strike. It's worse than Sal. I mean, Sal's been better at walking this year, but you don't have to throw in anything near the zone, and he's still going to swing.
And you know what's wild? Right now, he's carrying the lowest strikeout rate of his entire career. And it's like under 20%. Like,
wow,
that's good even for not Javi Baez,
right?
But there's no authority. He's only slugging 280. Like he doesn't hit the ball with authority anymore.
No, and he used to. He used to hit it with a lot of authority.
Can you be an old 31? Is that a thing you can be in Major League Baseball?
Apparently so. He's answering that question. We've got more Royals baseball to get to coming up here in just a few moments. We'll talk some NFL later on this hour. Do not forget, 3 o'clock hour, we've got a family 4-pack of tickets to give away to the Royals-Tigers finale tomorrow afternoon, courtesy of our friends at DM Injury Law. All that's coming up on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. How about some thrilling Big 12 baseball? The Sunflower Showdown this morning. Breakfast and baseball from a completely empty Globe Life Park. There may have been, including facilities workers and concessions workers, 100 people in the building.
That was really restoring that COVID Major League Baseball season feeling.
It was like playing in an empty Kmart. It was awful.
All that we're missing were the cardboard cutouts. We need like a cardboard Willie and a cardboard Baby J, like right there in one of those suites behind home plate.
Hey, wow, is that Danny Manning? Nope, it's cardboard Danny Manning. Like, that's what you needed. Awful environment, which sucks, because you know what? It was a great game. It was an awesome pitchers duel between KU and K-State. KU gets the win 2-1, got one run off of Tyson Neighbors in the top of the ninth. That was the difference maker. Ben Hartle had a home run for KU as well. Pair of different Wildcats had 3 hits in the game. You know how much I love a pitcher's duel. That is peak baseball, right? Like 2-1 ultimate baseball score. That is the peak of the sport right there. The bullpens for both teams were great. It was fun baseball. You had, energy and excitement right down to the final out. It was awesome. You had Hunter, what's his name? Hunter Cranton, the closer for KU, hit 98 the whole 9th inning.
Yeah, like
it kicked ass.
Blew my mind. Like college teams are bringing dudes out of the bullpen throwing 98 these days, and we're not like talking about those guys as like first round picks or like he's blowing 97, 98. He threw one changeup, which was absurd. The 9-hole for K-State.
Chuck Ingram.
Yeah, Chuck Ingram was miles out in front of that pitch. I'm like, that wasn't very sporting of you, Hunter, to throw that pitch in that spot. But, tough one. K-State had more opportunities and just didn't cash them in. They'll rue that one.
10 left on. Ooh.
And they'll move on. They'll play the loser between West Virginia and TCU. Sounds like TCU is winning that game. The 9 seed's up on the 4 seed, 4-2 last we heard. 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Cats are back at it. We will have that game right here on 580.
And according to Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, it would behoove Kansas State to not go 0-2.
Really?
In this tournament.
Really? I thought they'd be in no matter what.
I think that they still have a chance. Like, they would have a chance, but if they would like some breathing room, if they would like to not sweat out the selection show, it would behoove them to find a way to win tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it makes a modicum of sense. I mean, they've got really good metrics. Last year, remember, the problem was the RPI. Not a problem this year. They're pretty set in that category. KU's not going to make it in all likelihood unless they
have a miraculous run.
Yeah, win the thing. Maybe. They would get in at that point. I doubt that ends up happening, but that's a team that's gotten a lot better. The funniest part of the broadcast was Tyson Neighbors, the closer for K-State. He came in the 8th inning with 2 on and 2 out to get him out of a jam, and he was throwing 91, 93 in that range. And I think it was Keith Moreland on the ESPN Plus broadcast who said, it was kind of weird. He was throwing these BP fastballs. Like he wasn't getting to his normal stuff. It was kind of a weird at bat to get out of the inning. First pitch of the 9th, I believe he threw 97. They go, oh yeah, there it is. There it is. I think he called every pitch dynamite, the entire broadcast. Oh, dynamite right there. But when you got closers coming in throwing 97, 98, that's kind of what it feels like. So you'll be able to hear K-State versus whoever they play tomorrow at 9 o'clock, pregame at 8:30 right here on 580 WIBW. The Royals, speaking of bullpen arms, they have a new bullpen arm. We talked about that yesterday with Matt Sauer getting DFA'd. Sam Long is the newest member of the Royals bullpen. We didn't talk about him a lot yesterday. Fairly middling career numbers, 80 career games entering this week. Played with the Giants and the A's. 4.92 career ERA. Doesn't miss a lot of bats. 7.2 strikeouts per 9 for his career. But I've given the Royals credit for this in the recent past, so I will give them credit for it again. I like not sticking with the guy just because he's a sunk cost. You say, hey, we want to be better. We're going to make a move because we think it will make us better.
So Long has been really good at AAA Omaha. 28-year-old left-hander, 20 2/3 innings, a 1.31 ERA, 23 strikeouts, which 10 strikeouts per 9, like that's good, but it really stands out in pretty stark contrast to what he's been able to do at the big league level and in large part at the minor league level in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been able to get to that number as a big leaguer, and in the last 2 seasons, even at AAA, he hasn't struck out guys like that at a level like this until this year. So it makes you wonder, maybe there's a tweak, maybe there's something new that he's working with that the Royals have taught him. Also, only 5 walks, 2.2 walks per 9 inning, something he hasn't been able to do at a high level until this stretch with the Storm Chasers, and he hasn't allowed a home run. The other thing, too, he's left-handed. This is the 3rd left-handed arm in the bullpen. And what it might embolden the Royals to do is really give Angel Zerpa a look in the late innings and not just say we've got to hold Zerpa back for the left-handed situational stuff. Let's use Zerpa in the 7th. We got a 1-run lead going to the 7th, 3 righties. Let's use Zerpa here. And then, if we need later on in the game, we need a left-handed specialist. Maybe Long's a little more equipped for that. Right now, Will Smith is not a back-end guy. Even though he's worked 9 straight scoreless innings, the Royals have still very much deployed him in lower leverage.
Get the confidence back.
Yes, lower leverage opportunities for him. I think Zerpa's stuff is interesting enough. He has not been great when asked to strand runners when he's been brought in the middle of some messy innings. He's allowed more than his share of inherited runners to score, but you can minimize his exposure to those situations if you decide, hey, he's going to be our guy in the 7th, or he's going to be our guy in the 8th here. I mentioned on Saturday he worked the 8th, ended up facing 3 right-handed hitters because the A's used 2 pinch hitters, so he didn't get to see the lefties, and he went right through them 1, 2, 3. He's got a good, hard sinking fastball. He throws a lot of strikes, hardly walks anybody. I think he could be really good in an expanded late inning role, and I think the Royals will be well served to find out if he can be that 3rd arm that they can lean on the way that they've leaned on MacArthur in the 9th and Schreiber as kind of their fireman in the 7th and the 8th.
I like the fact that they are going with different options, are going to try things out. They're trusting what they have seen at AAA so far. I'm cool with it. The next step, though, talking about I'm willing to give them credit for doing the right thing and the smart thing because they have not always in recent memory. You got to figure out something with the outfield. It's just not tenable for a playoff team. Maybe I'm overkilling that. You guys can tell me if I'm going over the top, but you need to figure something out. And if that is just we're going to bring up Drew Waters for 3 weeks, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, he's going right back down. Fine, try it. Give it a shot because, like you said yesterday, Dan, what's the harm? You have a guy go out there and he hits 156 in a few weeks. So it's just Hunter Renfroe. Like, that's your worst case scenario. I'm willing to live with that to give someone else a shot.
The Athletic put out their weekly MLB power rankings today, and the crux of the power rankings, that what they wrote about each team was one prospect who could impact the big league club this season. And for the Royals, it was not Drew Waters. It was not even a player at AAA. It was Gavin Cross. Remember Gavin Cross?
I do remember Gavin Cross.
Number 9 overall pick in the 2022 entry draft. Completely fell off the prospect map last year. In 2023 at 203 with a 676 OPS. Because he had, like, Lyme disease or some equivalent of that. He had some sort of tick-borne disease that sapped his strength and energy. And he was not the same player and only played 96 games last year. 35 games going into today at Northwest Arkansas. He's hitting 298, an 837 OPS. He's got 6 stolen bases. He's a left-handed bat. Oh, yeah, he got 2 more hits, including a home run today. So he's up to 4 home runs on the year. Keep an eye on Gavin Cross. He's working his way back into the prospect rankings, I think, and might be a guy who the Royals could see as possible outfield help as this season goes on.
Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, we'll move to the NFL, Pro Football Focus. Yesterday, we went through their top 25 under 25 years old. How about the top 30 under 30? A few more Chiefs showing up on this list. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. 2:45 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you. Thanks for spending some of your Tuesday afternoon hours with us. Pro Football Focus today released their list of the top 30 players in the NFL over 30 years old, so 30 or older. And 3 Kansas City Chiefs wound up on the list. Now, maybe you disagree with where they landed, but 3 Chiefs included in the top 30. And I don't think you can argue with any of these. They've got Chris Jones 3rd. Travis Kelce 7th. So 2 in the top 7. That's impressive. And then number 30 is Joe Thuney, who is the least assuming NFL player maybe in the entire league. Like, do you know what he sounds like?
I don't even know what he looks like.
He
could walk in here right now and be like, that's a big fella. Who is that?
Yeah. And
did you play any ball, bud?
He has opened up a little bit in his media availabilities, but I remember vividly the first year he was with the team after coming over from, do you remember where?
The Patriots.
The Patriots. You could not have built a robot with an AI brain that came up with more Bill Belichick-like quotes in his media availability. Yeah, we're trying to get better every day. Joe, give me something. Come on. This ain't New England. This ain't the Bill Belichick team. Come on, give me a break. So all 3 of them make the top 30. Yeah. All-pro would have been an all-pro if he had gotten to 1,000. Did Kelce make all-pro? No, he was just a Pro Bowler this year. First time in, I think, 7 years he had not been an all-pro.
Yeah, I don't even think he was, because Laporta, I think, was second all-pro.
Which, I get it. Laporta was awesome. So you've got 3 legitimate all-pro players from the Chiefs. Yeah, obviously they're going to make the list. Here's my problem with this list. It's wrong, and it's bad.
I think this list is just done by their grades.
100%. And there's no context given. Yeah. Like, okay, Lane Johnson has an 87.4 grade, and Travis Kelce has an 83.2 grade. So Lane Johnson, better player than Travis Kelce, confirmed. That's what we're doing here.
Which, no, that's not how this works.
Can we do like a grade and then like people's opinions combined with that? Like,
or just like positional value matters.
Right. Okay, and even if we're doing position by position, and I appreciate the fine folks at Pro Football Focus and our guy John Costco for putting this together, because it's good to talk about. Number 4 on this list is George Kittle. Number 7 is Travis Kelce. I think George Kittle's a really good player. Yeah. Really, really good player.
He's on a Hall of Fame track. He's had some great seasons. He's been an all-pro.
The next time that someone argues that Kittle is better than Kelce, and it has something other than blocking as the main point, will be the first.
Yeah,
there is no other argument.
Nobody talks about Travis Kelce's blocking unless it's in contrast to George Kittle's blocking, which, hey, that's great that George Kittle is a great blocking tight end. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Ask 32 head coaches which tight end they'd rather have, and other than Kyle Shanahan, like, every one of them is taking Travis Kelce. I firmly believe that.
They had to put this as a caveat at the top. George Kittle overtakes Travis Kelce. Kittle turned 30 years old this past season and is on an upward trajectory, giving him the nod over Kelce.
How do you know that? And I'm assuming that the point they're making is, well, last year his PFF grade was this, and this year his PFF grade was this. Thus, he is on an upward trajectory. That's not what upward trajectory means. That's not at all what that means. In fact, that is a completely subjective opinion you're trying to use objective numbers for. Those numbers are also subjective. But no, Travis Kelce is a better player than George Kittle. Travis Kelce is a fine blocker and an elite receiver. George Kittle is a pretty good blocker and a pretty good receiver.
And even if Kittle were an elite blocker, I would rather have the elite pass catcher than the elite blocker at tight end.
This is hilarious what they wrote for Kittle. While Kittle's 2-year 90 PFF grade is not as good as that of Travis Kelce, his trajectory and younger age give him the nod as the top tight end on the list. Kittle was the highest graded tight end in the NFL in 2023 and has consistently dominated the position despite playing among a plethora of talented pass catchers contending for targets.
So he is a worse player, but had one really good year and is younger, so he's the better player? I thought that we were ranking players, not ranking various things we made up and came up with just so we could put George Kittle higher. I think George Kittle's really good. I think he is an awesome player. awesome player. He is not better than Travis Kelce, and he never has been.
I hope that George Kittle does not live down the moment that we all saw in the mic'd up footage from this past Super Bowl, where he's getting off a little jokey joke at George Karlaftis while somebody is recovering a live ball behind him.
It looks like an AI wrote this.
It kind of does. No, I'm with you. Like, Kittle's personality is funny. Ah, man, Kittle, he's hilarious, isn't he? Yeah, it's funny when you win. And then when you don't recover a fumble because you're looking the wrong way and you're having a conversation with the other team, not so funny, huh?
Yeah, you're trying to get off something, a viral moment while the ball is in play in a Super Bowl, cost your team possession.
There's
it went viral, all right.
Oh, it certainly did. There are a few others on this list. Kirk Cousins is 8th. Devontae Adams is 9th. What? I am very biased. Devontae Adams is probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite football players ever. Okay, so I am inherently biased. There is no world, any plane of existence in which Kirk Cousins is a better football player than Devontae Adams. There's not. Devontae Adams is going to the Hall of Fame.
I want to understand how
Kirk Cousins is just going to the Got My Bag Hall of Fame.
I just want to know how Kirk Cousins is 8th and Aaron Rodgers is 24th, and they're both coming off the same injury. And Cousins is a little bit younger, I understand, but has there ever been any point in the 2 trajectories of those quarterbacks' careers that not only would you rank Cousins above Rodgers, but you would say he's 16 spots better than Aaron Rodgers?
No, none, never.
Like, maybe on a list of people you would like to hang out with, Cousins is 16 spots above Rodgers. Maybe on a list of people who have the most Kohl's cash, Cousins is 16 spots above Rodgers.
Oh, you know that's true.
But come on, man. What? What are we doing here?
That's ridiculous. That's a really good point. The other one, and Dan, you'll find this funny because I mean, you covered Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu came in 22nd on this list. Listen to this write-up. An active safety who flies around the field. Did you write this 4 years ago? Mathieu has been relatively inconsistent due to his play style. However, the past 2 seasons have been the most consistent we've seen from him, with back-to-back 80-plus PFF grades for the first time in his career.
Oh, wow.
Watch. I'm begging you, John, author of this piece, watch the games. Please watch the games. Are you trying to tell me that old-ass Tyrann Mathieu is more consistently good now than he was when he went back-to-back first-team All-Pro for the Chiefs? Is that the argument you are trying to make to me?
These are the most consistent seasons we've seen from him. When was the last time you saw a Tyrann Mathieu highlight?
2020.
Probably.
Was that the snow? Yeah, 2020 in the snow game. Late season. Who are the Chiefs playing? It was outdoors. It was in the snow.
Was it Denver?
Might have been the Denver game. Yeah, that's the last time I saw a Tyrann Mathieu highlight. Come on. Please.
He had 4 picks last year, which is 4 more than I would have guessed.
Yeah, I would not have guessed he had 4 last year.
Took 1 back for a touchdown. Yeah, but he's not playing at a level that puts him in all pro or even Pro Bowl discussions at this stage.
I'm one more just to pick on this list. I'm going to give you 4 wide receivers. Tell me who the best one of the group is, okay? Who is actually the best? Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans.
Man, that's tough. I might say Evans.
I think I might go Evans as well. Would you? Yeah. Where would you put Keenan Allen in that group of 4?
3rd or 4th, depending on how you feel about Diggs bouncing back.
They have him highest ranked. They have him in the top 20.
Of course they do.
And Cooper Kupp comes into. Cooper Kupp is a better player than Keenan Allen. Come on, please.
It's all those off-season Super Bowls that Allen won with the Chargers.
That's true. And a bunch of people who have never understood that he's supercharged Jeremy Maclin. That's what Keenan Allen is. Which is a good player. A good player. Not better than any of those other
possession
guys.
Merchant.
Yes. For real, though. That's what he's always been. This list is bad. The players they put on it may be correct. The order, not even remotely close to correct. We'll talk a little more Chiefs football coming up later on in the show today. We'll also get to more Royals to lead off the 3 o'clock hour. Don't forget, we've got Royals tickets to give away, a family 4-pack for tomorrow's series finale against the Tigers. We'll give those away next hour. Michael Swain will join us later on in the show. We've still got a whole lot to get to coming up after the national news here on 580 Sports Talk. now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. That's Dan Lucero. That's Spencer Dupuis. On the other side of the glass, that's Trenton Kraxner here with you until 6 o'clock this afternoon as we lead you into Royals baseball against the Detroit Tigers tonight. Pregame at 6, first pitch at 6:40. You can hear pregame, postgame, and the game itself tonight right here on 580 WIBW. Alec Marsh will take the hill for the Royals tonight. We'll preview that game coming up a little bit later on. We'll get to the AL Central standings and playoff projections coming up here in just a matter of moments. Depending on where you look, different outlets are viewing the Royals' chances very differently. We'll explain what I mean coming up here in just a few seconds. Also this hour, we've got Random Question Tuesday and some news from Big 12 basketball about scheduling for the new 18-team conference and 16-team, excuse me. And to be frank, I don't like it. I do not think it is a good thing. We're going to get to that coming up later on in the hour. We're taking your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. No more wasted time, no more wasted money, because with Top City Metal Supply, they will cut the exact lengths of steel, stainless steel, and aluminum that you need for your project's specifications. Check them out here in the capital city on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field at Top City Metal Supply. We are also taking your comments on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is where you can find us on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, absolutely recommend that you do. We have so much video content that we pump out over on YouTube. You can see the daily stream of the show. We've got our YouTube shorts going with all sorts of bite-sized content for you. Once we get back to football season, any KU, K-State Chiefs recaps we do, we will have all of those as well on the YouTube channel. So go subscribe now. Again, that's 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. I am assuming we will have an influx of new subscriptions late this week. I will not be here Thursday, Friday. So yeah, I'm assuming we're going to double the subscription total on
our Brendan isn't here pledge drive. Will once again be up and running Thursday and Friday.
But if we get more Friday, does that mean it also coincides with me?
It will mean it will all be me. Yeah,
that's correct. True. Yeah, that's a good point.
I won't be here on Friday.
Yeah, it's just going to be Dan and Trenton on Friday. So if everyone pours in just on Friday, I will actually feel better. I will feel much better knowing it's just pro Dan and not anti-me. It's going to make me feel a whole lot better about myself, frankly. But that's coming up Thursday and Friday. Thursday, the guys will be live from Westridge Mall here in Topeka for the Topeka Catbackers event. You just heard Wyatt Thompson talking about that during our last commercial break. Should be a lot of fun. A whole lot of folks from K-State Athletics will be there, Wyatt included. And we'll have the show live from Westridge Mall coming up 2 until 6 on Thursday this week. Before we get to Royals baseball in the AL Central, and we do have Royals tickets to give away coming up here in a little bit, major, important, vital news in the last 20 minutes or so from the college football world. The first cover for the Phil Steele College Football Preview magazine was revealed by the man himself, Phil Steele, last hour. The Texas and Midlands region cover. Texas A&M is a player. Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State is featured. Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma featured. Jalen Daniels from Kansas and DJ Giddens from Kansas State both featured. Ladies and gentlemen, on the regional cover for Phil Steele's College Football magazine, there are more players from schools in the state of Kansas than there are from schools in the state of Texas this year.
Get wrecked, Texas.
It is as Jalen Daniels famously said, famously for KU fans anyway, a few years ago after a win over West Virginia, new era. Kansas runs this area of the country, and I guess Oklahoma too. OU and OSU still have a couple players too. Crazy, wild. I could not tell you the last time KU had a player on the cover of this magazine.
I have been purchasing the Phil Steele magazine every year since, go back to like 04, 05, I think, with this magazine. So we're going on 20 solid years of this being a part of my preseason college football preparation. And a big part, frankly, of how I have come to more and more over the course of my life grow to love and appreciate college football. Mm-hmm. Like, I owe the Phil Steele guide a lot. It is indispensable. Truly. It is the one the experts can't do without. Jam-packed with information.
This is not an ad, by the way. It's just awesome.
No, it's
just really good.
It's worth the $20 every year. I'm a more informed and more excited college football fan for buying it every year. I do not recall a KU player ever having been on the cover before.
I was trying to go back and look through his archives because I was thinking if anyone would have made it, maybe it would have been like
Todd Reesing?
I'm sure Todd made it back in the day. I was trying to think recently. Did Dorrance Armstrong?
I don't think so.
Did Joe? I don't know. Joe Deneen
I
made
don't think
it.
Joe Deneen made it.
Ben Heaney? Like, this is the kind of player those were good college players, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, and like K-State, it's been a little bit more frequent. Like surely Colin Klein was on a cover. I remember Deuce Vaughn being on a cover. I think Cooper Beebe was on the cover last. I know Cooper Beebe was on the cover last year because his dad posted took a picture of Cooper standing by like the display of all of them. I think they were driving down to Media Day in Dallas together, and they stopped at like a Barnes and Noble somewhere on the route and made Cooper take a picture with all the magazines. Which love that for Cooper's pops. That he got to do that. That's the kind of dad energy I can get behind.
No, that rules. That's awesome. So very excited about the magazine coming out. Very thankful we have a Barnes & Noble just down the street where we're going to go buy this. And again, Phil Steele is not giving us any money. Maybe he should for how much we're talking about it, but it really is the must-have for the start of college football season. We've got a question for you, Dan, from Jason on YouTube. Says, I'm not even sure if I know who Dan's favorite college football team is.
So I don't really have a favorite college football team. Growing up in like my parents each went to a Division I school that does not have a football program. They both went to Pepperdine. So I did not grow up rooting for my parents' alma mater. I grew up in Colorado, obviously, when I was a kid. Like vivid memories of Rashawn Salam, Cordell Stewart, those Colorado teams. Rooted for them to beat Nebraska. But like Colorado State was really good too at the time. My grandparents had Air Force season tickets because my great-grandparents had bought Air Force season tickets because if you bought Air Force season tickets, that meant you got the Notre Dame game. And that was the only way you could be sure that you got the Notre Dame game. And my great-grandparents were first generation and very Catholic. So they were big Notre Dame fans. And so they had the season tickets. And so there were still it was a way to get into college football. So Air Force was a team that I got to see a lot in person. One of my favorite college players of all time was Charles Woodson. So I really liked Michigan quite a bit and rooted for them for a very long time. But as I've covered the sport professionally, and like I covered when I was working in Nebraska, I covered the Huskers. So I watched all their games, watched all the Big Ten stuff. Now that I'm here, I watch KU, I watch K-State. I go to more K-State games and KU games just because that's kind of how we've divided and conquered that the last few years here.
I lived in Lawrence for a long time.
Right.
It made it easy to split it that way.
Exactly. I drove and you walked. It was
right.
It was,
right.
Fair was fair. Saved at least somebody some gas.
That's true.
Some gas money, actually, come to think of it. No, I'm joking. So long way to say I don't really have like a favorite. I went to a Division III school, but I don't have like a team that I live and die with. I just love the sport. Yeah. And maybe that's why I love the sport so much is that I'm not really tied up in who wins and who loses.
It probably helps.
Honestly. There are some sports, baseball, where I think I'd enjoy them a lot more if I didn't have a team that I cared about.
In a similar vein, I just assumed losses for a long time. My favorite team. So I got very emotional about it, but I probably didn't have to. Yes. I mean, Spencer and I both went to D1 schools with once upon a time, your school was a powerhouse in football.
When they were D1 AA.
When they were 1AA, yeah.
They were the winningest program in college football in the 90s.
Had Randy Moss.
Yeah, Chad Pennington.
Yeah. Byron Leftwich.
Yeah.
A lot of good players came through Marshall over time.
So, Jason, short answer, too long didn't read version of that answer is I was a big CU fan and a big Michigan fan for a long time. Those were probably my two favorites as a kid and as a young adult. But these days, I just love the sport, follow the sport, don't really have a team that I live and die with.
Let's get to some Royals baseball, shall we? The division championship is, for now, it is within reach. That is also because we are not yet to June. When we talk about a Royals division title, it might happen. They're right there with it. Yes, I still think, personally, we are a little bit too early to be doing a ton of standings watching, scoreboard watching. That's my fairly conservative approach to it. But if those kinds of things interest you, Fangraphs is now projecting that's who we often look to for our postseason projections. They now have the Royals as of today at 52.2% likelihood of making the playoffs. 52.2%. That is the second highest number in the AL Central. The Guardians at 60.4%. The Twins are fractionally behind at 52.1%. Weirdly, how their projections work, how their models work, they have the Royals technically better playoff odds, but worse odds to win the division than Minnesota.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I don't know how that works.
It is funny, though, and I teased this earlier. Depending on where you look for this information, you've got wildly different projections. So Fangraphs has the Royals just on the plus side of 50-50 to make it to the postseason as we stand on the afternoon of May 21st. Baseball Reference, super bullish about the Royals. Like, they're in. They're all the way. 70.6%. They give them nearly a 40% chance to win the division. Only percentage points behind Cleveland in that regard. Baseball Reference, all in on the Royals to make it to October. We don't have anything fun to say for the Royals to make it to October, do we? Like, there's no Rocktober for the Royals.
No. Royal-tober, that's not a thing.
I guess
Blue October.
Yeah, lots of teams have done the hunt for Blue October thing, which, yeah, I mean, it's not unique, but that's something. Baseball Prospectus, on the other hand, they're not feeling the Royal vibe quite as much. They've got the Royals 31% chance to make it to the postseason at this point.
So the methodology is all different, right?
Right.
Like, with Baseball Reference, it's very strictly like rolling 100 game sample is what they're doing. They're not beholden to a projection system. They're just looking at what have you been for the last 100 games. And that, for these purposes, obviously goes back to what has been done last year. There's some regression to the mean built in, but it's not built upon a preseason projection system. Fangraphs builds theirs on their Zips projection system, Dan Zimborski's projections. Baseball Prospectus, of course, builds theirs around their Pacoda projections. And if you're able to remember back to how Pacoda felt about the 2015 Royals, you may roll your eyes a little bit when you hear about Pacoda projections. The big difference, obviously, is that Baseball Prospectus's projections still pretty heavily at this stage weigh their preseason projections, where Fangraphs is a bit more pliable at this point, a bit more willing to admit that maybe Zips might have been wrong about who these teams were, where Baseball Prospectus kind of hangs on a little bit longer to what their numbers told them their teams would be in preseason. That being said, you average them all out, you come out to about a 52 to 55% chance for the Royals to make the postseason. How many of you listening who are Royals fans would have punched me in the face if I told you on March 1st that on May 21st, the Royals would be a better than a coin flip's chance to make the postseason?
People would have said, stop putting me on. Just stop it. You're hot take. You're trying to make content. That's not a real take. That's what people would have told you. Yeah. With what players? That's what the other thing people would have said to you. Who is going to get us there?
So it's a pretty remarkable like range of outcomes too in their projection with Baseball Reference, and like based on the reality. Like, this is what they've done. This is what these players have done in the last 100 games. So that's what we project them out to do the rest of the way. Baseball Prospectus obviously was a little higher on the teams that they thought early on would be good, Cleveland and Minnesota. So for now, those are the teams. Baseball Prospectus has Cleveland a 76% chance to make the postseason, better than a coin flip, 53.5% chance to win the division. Minnesota at 59% to go to the playoffs and 30% to win the division. Kansas City, as you mentioned, 31% to make the playoffs, 12% to win the division, according to Baseball Prospectus. With Cleveland, there's a little less variance, and with Minnesota, there's a little less variance in the projection systems. With Kansas City, the variance is so wide because still trying to figure out, like, okay, what is this? Like, how real is this? And some models are built to be more skeptical than others, but this is, as we mentioned earlier, the second best start to a season in Royals franchise history. They are 11 games over 500. And yes, the schedule is going to get sterner from here. As we talked about, there's a big important stretch of about a month's worth of games coming up where the Royals play some really good teams, really talented teams. Like the Padres are 500, but that's a loaded roster.
Yep.
We know that the Yankees are good. Minnesota for 4 games on the road. That's going to be a big series right out of the Memorial Day weekend at the end of this month. A challenging stretch of games, to be sure. And I would not say that it is particularly likely that even though the Royals have played like I'm trying to do the math and I'm not typing fast enough here, but the Royals have played like a 99-win team these first 49 games. They may not play like a 99-win team through that stretch of baseball. They may not. That's their pace. But these wins are in the bank. And that means a lot that the Royals have right now on May 21st, 5 more wins in the bank than Tampa Bay, 6 more wins in the bank than Boston, Minnesota, and Texas, 9 more wins in the bank than Houston and Toronto, and 7 more wins in the bank than Detroit. That's like a week's worth of games that the Royals have been able to bank already because of the way that they've come out and played this year. And you're saying it might be early for you to do some scoreboard watching. I'm not going to lie. I was peeking at Mets Guardians last night. I was trying to figure out how in the world Royal great Ben Lively was experiencing a career renaissance for the Guardians as like their 10th starter. And he's out there pitching to a 2.84 ERA in his first 7 starts, striking out a batter per 9. Where the hell is this coming from? He's 32. How is this happening? How do the Guardians keep doing this? The Guardians keep losing starting pitchers, quality guys. Like, I'd love to see Guardians wriggle their way out of that jam, and then they wriggle their way out of it easily because they're a pitcher development machine.
Yeah. Have been for a really long time at this point.
Also, I think they have the best bullpen in the division with Clase and Sandlin and Hunter Gaddis and Cade Smith have been really good. And old pal Scott Barlow is striking out 11.5 guys per 9.
We were talking Cy Young yesterday and where Seth Lugo would stand right now. So ESPN has their Cy Young predictor machine, and it's just based on stats and efficiency and stuff. This early in the year, not super efficient in terms of projecting who will be the Cy Young winner. Like they have Tarek Skubal, I think 5th or 6th in the American League. I think he's probably first. You know who they had first in their projection machine?
Was it Clase?
Emmanuel Clase.
14 saves in 17 tries, a .37 ERA. That's pretty good. 24 strikeouts to 2 walks in 24 1/3. That's pretty good. The thing with Clase, you watch him and you wonder how he doesn't strike out everybody because he throws like 102-mile-an-hour cutters, and yet he's a ground ball pitcher. It's such a weird deal. Like people make contact on his gnarly stuff, but they don't do anything with it. He's allowed 0 home runs, 12 hits. But no, this is like the fun part of it now because I think you can start to do this a little bit because the Royals would be, I think, the story of the American League. If not for what the damn Guardians are doing. You look up and they're winning every day.
Yeah.
It's starting to get a little annoying.
Well, it's weird to think. So where they are right now through 49 games, essentially you have 113 games left, right? If you put it that way. But I did it over 112 game pace. It was an easier round number. If they went 500 the rest of the way, they would still have 86 wins.
Yeah.
They would have to play at an under 500 pace the rest of the way to have below 80 wins.
Yeah, that'd be a 30-win improvement.
Which,
by the way,
honestly, like I feel like going under 500 the rest of the way could be a thing because you just hit a wall, maybe. So like, they're such a young team that they could hit a wall.
Yeah, and injuries could happen. Like there are no sure things. That's why that's why these are projections and not sure things.
Right.
But when we convened to project how many wins the Royals were going to have this season, I think we landed in the middle. I think our mean was 78 because you had them at what, 80 and 82?
I think I had them
at 500.
Yeah, right around 500. I think I had them at 78 wins.
And I had 75, yeah.
You had 75 wins. So yeah, 78 right in the middle. Let's say they are that team. Let's say they are true talent. They are a 78-win baseball team. And let's say they play like that for the final 113 games of the season. That's still 54 wins. That's still 84 if you combine it to the 30 they've already got. So even if they are who we thought they were, shout out to Dennis Green, all right? They're still a mid-80s win baseball team when the dust settles. And like I said, that could be enough to make the postseason. It was enough in the National League last year to snag one of those last wild cards. It would definitely, I think, be enough to hang in the American League Central race all season long. So I think we have arrived at the point where we can start to talk about this team not just as, oh, it's a nice start, oh, it's a fun story. We are going to start to talk about this team in the context of how's everybody else doing around them and how does it impact your chances to play October baseball.
One thing real quick, looking ahead to the future Royals schedule, we're still, 2 weeks out from this. So things can certainly change between now and then. Looks like the Royals will miss Yu Darvish when they play the Padres, which would be a big deal because Yu Darvish has been really good this year. Really good so far. You miss an ace, you're feeling a little bit better.
You start to look at those things. You start to cast, an eye on, it's Carlos Carrasco on the mound for Cleveland tonight, and he's their worst starting pitcher. Maybe the Mets can jump on him. And in fact, they may have scratched Carrasco, actually. They might be going with Xavier Curry tonight instead, according to Baseball Reference. I went to their preview page, and they've got a completely different starting pitcher. So they might have scratched Carrasco. Adrian Hauser, though, has been a total bum for the Mets. An ERA that looks like a Boeing airplane. And I don't mean busted up with bolts falling off of it. I mean 7.44. That's his ERA. So you start to look at that a little bit. You start to think, boy, I hope Minnesota loses. They're 5 games back. Hope Minnesota stays struggling. Hope you can win this series and keep Detroit further back at arm's length. It's a big series to win for the Royals. You got the first game. Go get one of these next 2. Keep stacking series wins. Keep putting these wins in the bank because things will get hard and losing streaks do happen. That's just the way of the world in a 162-game season. But the more of these you put in the bank, the better your chances are that we're going to be talking still about some meaningful baseball in August and September, which, by the way, none of us here know how to do.
Yeah, that'll be a new experience.
Just being completely upfront about it. Neither of us, you and me, Brendan, we're the longest tenured members of this year's sports staff. We have not talked about really meaningful baseball and also talked about Chiefs training camp at the same time.
Very, very new experience. And I hope we get there. I hope we get that brand new experience. The Royals are winning. They're back in action tonight. We want you to be able to go check out the boys in blue as they try to keep their momentum going. Huge pitching matchup tomorrow. Cole Reagans for the Royals, Tarek Skubal for the Detroit Tigers. I want to send 4 folks, a family 4-pack to the game. So let's take a trip over to the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Have you or a loved one been in a car wreck? Contact DM Injury Law today and get the money you deserve. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this. We've got a family 4-pack to give away, courtesy of our friends at DM Injury Law. And we will go with caller number 4, 785-272-9429. Caller number 4 to our Royals ticket window from DM Injury Law. We got a family 4-pack for you for tomorrow. We'll get our winner during the break. We've got Random Question Tuesday next on 580 Sports Talk. A shout out to Andrew. Andrew is going to take the family to tomorrow's Royals-Tigers series finale. Said that kids just got out of school today. What better way to celebrate the start of summer than going to see Cole Reagan's Tarek Skubal? That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, kids are going to love that. That's great.
So a big congratulations to Andrew, the winner of our Royals Family 4-pack of tickets from the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this. We'll have more Royals tickets to give away throughout the season. So thank you to everybody who called in trying to win those tickets today. Also, an update on the Big 12 baseball tournament down in Arlington. TCU knocked off West Virginia. The 9th-seeded Frogs knocked off West Virginia today, which means tomorrow, 9 a.m., 8:30 pregame, 9 a.m. first pitch from Globe Life Park. It will be K-State versus West Virginia. Two upset teams from today will go head-to-head. Loser is out of the tournament. Winner will move on to play on Thursday. So, K-State hopefully can stay alive and knock off the Mountaineers coming up tomorrow. KU doesn't have to play until Thursday now. That is a big deal for the Jayhawks because they used all their best bullpen arms today. They burned through the whole plus side of the bullpen today. So some much-needed rest for the Jayhawks. They will play again coming up on Thursday. With that, let's get to Random Question Tuesday for today. Random question for me. What's your favorite vegetable?
Man, I don't really rock with vegetables, to be honest with you. I don't really like vegetables very much. I'm not like full Al Michaels, like where I will refuse to eat vegetables. Never eaten a vegetable in my life. Al Michaels, I'm not like that, but like, I don't know. I think people who say they really like them and enjoy them like are lying. Like people say, I love broccoli. No, the hell you don't. That's a lie. Don't lie to me. How much salt and butter do you have to put on it to make it even vaguely edible? Don't lie to me about broccoli.
My answer is broccoli. I love it, and Abby and I probably eat it at least 3 nights a week.
See, you're lying to the people.
Nope.
You're lying to me.
I love broccoli.
And you're lying to people, and come on.
I love it. If we said, hey, Trenton, go whip up some broccoli right now and bring me a plate of it, I'd eat the whole thing while we're on the air. I love broccoli. Cauliflower? Delicious. Love cauliflower. Asparagus. Like asparagus also. That's right there. That's the triumvirate for me. Asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower.
I've started to come around on like the grilled squash and zucchini.
Okay.
Being a solid option. You season that right, and that can be good. But again, you got to load it up with seasoning to make it taste like anything. There's no natural vegetable flavor that is good. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can't just like raw dog vegetables and have it be tasty.
See, I don't know,
you
man.
Gotta, like butter it to hell or season it or fry it.
I've had unseasoned like asparagus before. It's good. It's not as good as if you season it, but it's still good. I can do that. If we included grains, so you could pick corn as well. Do you like corn?
Yeah, I like corn. I like corn on the cob. Yeah.
Corn. Most people associate corn with vegetables, I think. Yeah. Okay. What's yours?
Mine would be carrots.
Oh, horrible. Horrible.
Get it with a little ranch or blue cheese with your wings.
Ranch, no blue cheese.
Put them in the ranch and then throw them in the trash because that's awful too.
Or my dad makes these garlic like cooked carrots. Those are really good.
That is one I cannot do. I loathe carrots.
I'll say this. Sometimes
carrots, terrorists, and the Minnesota Vikings, the three things I hate more than anything else.
There are sometimes, you can't just beat like a good like house or garden salad. Like, you know, get some good dressing on it, like maybe a vinaigrette, maybe a ranch, depending on the mood. Some croutons, maybe some tomato, maybe a little bit of cheese, maybe, some carrots. Like if you like egg in it, maybe, there's a lot of ways you can take the house salad.
Tomato for me.
Yeah, some tomatoes on it. A little cherry tomato action, or like garlic peppers sometimes. Like not garlic pepper. What are those called? The banana peppers.
Yeah.
Hell is a garlic pepper?
Garlic pepper.
Who's ever heard of a garlic pepper?
Jesus. I feel a little bad. I indicated earlier that I was just going to make Trenton go get me food, which is not what we are having Trenton do. He is working very hard every day. I feel bad. I hope it didn't sound like I was just going to make you be the guy who gets me food. Follow-up question, salad dressing. What's the best?
See, it depends on the salad.
Yeah.
But I like...
It's like a house salad.
Yeah,
Ranch.
it depends on the mood. Like sometimes, yeah, ranch is A-okay. Sometimes I want like a balsamic vinaigrette or something like that. Like I don't really get down with French. Like I tried that Dorothy Lynch stuff that Nebraskans swear by.
Oh yeah.
Bad. Bad.
I've never had it. We looked it up one time. I think you can buy it in Kansas.
Yes. Oh no, that's where I tried it. I bought it the Dillons. It's bad. Like Nebraska, you got Runza correct, and I'll even give you Valentino's pizza. But wrong on Dorothy Lynch, man. Not good.
The Runza's got to be warm, though. I went to Runza when I was in Kearney this past winter. Ooh, man. It was clearly like under a heat lamp that wasn't at full blast. And yeah, it was not very good.
That's tough.
Do you have a favorite?
It's either ranch or, depending on the meal I'm eating, Caesar salad.
Yeah.
It depends on the Caesar salad, the Caesar dressing. Some just are gross and some just are great.
I can do French. I can do ranch. I'm doing Italian, though. Like, certain salads, you put the zesty. Certain ones, you go with the creamy Italian. But yeah, Italian dressing for me.
Yeah, I just like the vinaigrette, the Italian vinaigrette, the balsamic vinaigrette. That's the hit for me. A couple of texts on the Top City Mail Supply text line from 785. We have vote in for celery.
I like celery, but that's one I have to put ranch on it.
Shout out to Ants on a Log.
You ever
Also,
had peanut butter on celery?
Ants on a Log.
Yeah, no, I
get some raisins.
I like peanut butter, but I don't like peanut butter on celery, personally.
Also, a vote for crisp Brussels sprouts from the 785.
My wife does have a good Brussels sprouts recipe. I never thought I would like them. I didn't eat them as a kid. I mean, we just didn't have them at home. But my wife has a good air fryer recipe for them. Nice and easy. Love the air fryer.
From the YouTube live chat, Jason is a yuck on shredded carrots in a salad. Also a yuck on Dorothy Lynch. So he's batting 500.
No, right on both of those. Perfect score. Mark also throws in cucumbers, if you count those as a vegetable. I think they're technically a fruit.
They are pickle.
They have seeds.
Pickle adjacent, which means they belong in the garbage.
You won't even eat a plain cucumber?
Absolutely not.
Oh man, I love cucumber.
Like my wife cuts them up, slices them, and they're always in our fridge. And I don't even like the smell.
When I was a kid, like a staple meal, I swear we ate it at least once a week when I was a kid. Tuna salad, tomato, cucumber. Just a big plate full of all of them. I would still eat. Oh man, that sounds so good. I do love cucumber. All right, Dan, what's your question for us?
What is the best live sports experience you've ever had? And I don't mean the best game you've ever seen necessarily, or the best stadium you've ever been to. I mean, what is the best experience you've ever had when you consider the stadium, but you also consider your seats, and you maybe consider the food, and you maybe consider the caliber of the game or the weather or whatever it is. But what is the one live sports experience you think back on and say, yeah, that's going to be hard to top? That was great.
Oh, man.
And let me narrow down to as a fan, because, yes, getting to sit courtside at the NCAA tournament or the Big 12 tournament or sitting in the press box, like that always rules. The free food is pretty neat. And getting to watch other games on the TVs, that rocks. But that's also like work.
Yes, it is work.
That doesn't count.
Believe it or not, we are working.
Fan.
Yeah. There's a couple that I could go with here. I've had fun experiences going to Lambeau before. I think for me, I would probably lean with when I went to see the Paul Bunyan's Axe game, Wisconsin, Minnesota in 2016. It wasn't a great game. Wisconsin pounded them. Remember when Todd McShay tried to tell us that Mitch Leidner was a first-round pick? Mitch Leidner is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched, and I watched multiple seasons of Peyton Bender. Like, Mitch Leidner was an awful player, and Wisconsin kicked their butts, but we had great seats. My best friend went to Wisconsin. The food was awesome. The tailgating beforehand was great. Jump around is as cool as it looks on TV. It is awesome to do. That one gets the nod ahead of when I saw South Carolina beat Alabama down in Columbia, only because we had better seats and also better food.
Mine is easy for me. It's a Capitals game, like within the last 5 years or like the height of they call it the Rock the Red era, just fights. I've seen a couple fights, an overtime winner, power play goals from Ovechkin, just the intensity of a hockey game in the 100 section at Capital One Arena.
I would say for me, it was probably getting like really good seats behind home plate at Coors Field. Every now and again, we might do that when I was growing up. We got seats behind home plate for a game when the Giants were in town. Barry Bonds, he homered. But the Rockies lost that game 16-4. So that was not the best live experience I've ever had because the home team lost by a billion runs. I got to sit club level for the with my brother for the first Melo LeBron matchup in the NBA in Denver. They had played in Cleveland the week before, but that was the first time in Denver, Melo and LeBron in their rookie years. And the Nuggets won. It was a great crowd. We were like first row at club level too, so we had great vantage point. That's probably it for me. Like I sat in a suite at a Rockies game once. That was cool. I had tickets behind the bench to a Nuggets game when I was like 4 years old. That was kind of awe-inspiring. Cool. But yeah, I would say it was I would say it was a club level for Melo versus LeBron.
I would have given you 2012 NLDS Game 4 Jason Worth walk-off homer game because I had a chance to be there, but I didn't go. So my dad's boss gave him tickets, but I wanted to play freshman basketball so bad. I was going to the
oh no.
I had to go to the workouts, you got to be present at those things.
Real
and
quick.
My dad didn't go.
Real quick. Do you have a question for us?
Yes. Before a domestic flight, how long before your flight do you get to the airport? Because the last time I flew in 2019, my mom told me I had to get there 2.5 hours before the flight. I got in through security within 20 minutes. And within 20 minutes of putting my feet out of the car, I was sitting down relaxing.
It depends on the airport and the flight usually, but I think 90 minutes is probably fine.
Like hour 15. Yeah. Kansas City, the security is so quick all the time.
Like you're flying out of Denver, like after a holiday weekend, you might want to be there 2.5 hours before because TSA is going to take forever. But if you're just flying out of Kansas City like this weekend, 90 minutes.
90 minutes is fine.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
That answers my question.
Yeah, you were. This was a fact finding. There was nothing random about this random question.
I had a random question, but I didn't write it down the other day.
So we used the utility of it instead. Coming up next, some news from Big 12 basketball scheduling. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Trenton Craxner alongside. John Rothstein of CBS Sports and Inside College Basketball reported this week that the schedule for Big 12 basketball starting this year with 16 teams in the conference is going to include 20 league games. We knew that. Bill Self had said that already. But it's going to have 20 league games beginning on December 30th and 31st. Everybody is going to play 2 games a week, no buys. So nobody gets the, Saturday, no midweek games, Saturday break anymore. Everybody is going to play 2 games a week with 20 games on the league schedule. And I've got to be honest with you, I understand why. You've got 16 teams. You're trying to get as many teams to play each other and to play multiple times as possible. I understand the why. Here's the problem, though. I don't think this is the best way to set yourself up for March. And I know if you're saying, oh, wow, 1 off week, big whoop. No, that's a huge whoop, in fact. Go ask a team that lost its best wing this past season to injury how important it was to get a week off. Very, very important. I don't think this does the Big 12 any favors when you're talking about getting ready for the big dance.
Yeah, I think that the 2 takeaways I have from this is whoever wins this league is going to earn it. Because not only is the league going to be really good, but it's going to be now a gauntlet where you don't get any time to gather yourself. Like, oh, did you just take an unexpected road loss? Did you just go to Colorado and get beat? Well, heads up, Saturday, you've got Arizona coming to town. Like, it's just going to be relentless. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have any buys until you play Oklahoma State. But you're just not.
The first reply on Twitter is, John, who plays Utah twice? That's the buy.
Yeah.
Utah. I don't know who the punching bag in this league is going to be. I don't think it's going to be them.
I think it's going to be Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State or Arizona State. Yeah, for me.
Ooh, Arizona State.
Arizona State's going to be, that's going to be rough year 1 for them. But
Bobby got all the coaching genes.
So, like, that's the one thing. You win this, you win the regular season Big 12, you will have earned it. And if you're going to win, you better have, it's not going to be enough to have a 7-player rotation. KU had basically a 6-player rotation this last year, and they ran out of steam with the bye.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need to go 9-10 deep. If you're playing 2 demanding games each week, you better have basically 2 5s that you feel comfortable playing if you're going to sustain. And now that makes the way that KU has recruited makes so much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of we want 8 or 9 starters. Well, this is why, because you can't play DeJuan Harris 38 minutes a night over and over again through 20 demanding games of your schedule. You can't. You can play him 32, maybe even get him 35 in the big games. But you're going to need somebody to play 8 to 10 minutes who can hold the fort. You'd better be deep because depth is going to matter more than it has ever mattered. It has always in the regular season mattered more than it does in March, but it's going to matter a whole hell of a lot in this Big 12 schedule.
Yep. I think this makes the Big 12 tournament even harder for a team to upset teams and continue
honestly
to play every day.
I feel like it's just going to be a war of attrition by the time you get to the Big 12 tournament. And you just say, man, whoever's got the most dudes available who are at 100% might win the whole thing. I mean, we talked about it this season regarding KU and the depth problems that the Jayhawks had. It's just like, do you care about the Big 12 tournament? Like, if you got bounced in the first round, which they did with that upset loss to Cincinnati, was it?
Yeah.
Like, is that a problem in terms of getting ready for and it didn't really matter in the end. No, Gonzaga killed them, but you know what I mean.
The teams,
it was a real discussion.
The teams that go into that tournament as the top seed know they're getting into the NCAA tournament anyway. I don't think it matters nearly as much as it does to maybe like if you're the 10 seed, like if you're 10 seed Cincinnati and this is we want to steal a bid, we want to go to the NCAA tournament, we got to have 4 good games here in a 4-day stretch, then it matters to you. But no, I don't think I think it will lessen the importance of the Big 12 tournament, and teams may approach it a little bit differently as a result.
It does set up a team, and I think KU is going to have arguably the best roster in the Big 12, a better roster than K-State, but I think it even helps a team like Kansas State where you say, hey, we're going to throw a bunch of different dudes at you who can shoot. We're just going to fill up the roster with dudes who can run and shoot, and know that certain games, you might have some guys who are down. You might not have your full roster for certain games, but you've got to be able to still run your stuff. So for KU, you're exactly right in terms of roster building, knowing, hey, we might not have Rylan Griffin for a game or two, or we're not going to have him at full strength for a game or two. But thankfully, we can just plug in Zeke Mayo into the starting lineup and we'll be fine. Maybe there's a game where you can't have a ton of DeJuan Harris because he rolls his ankle at some point every season. And instead of giving you 30 minutes a game, he might only be able to give you 20-something for a couple of games, a couple of weeks even. You can slide Zeke Mayo in and have him start as kind of a combo point guard for a little bit. And you can bring whoever else in. AJ Storr can play either the 3 or the 4 in the starting lineup. Hunter Dickinson is worn down. What do you do there? You move KJ to the 5. You play Zach Clemens for an amount of time. Like, the fact that you can do that, you have replacements if there are injuries, if there are guys worn down, that's a good thing. Roster building wise, makes sense what KU and to a lesser extent K-State have done. I just think if you're talking about what is going to prepare our teams for the tournament, the biggest event of the year, what will prepare them the best, I don't think this is it. I think you're putting them in a tough spot because they're going to be really worn down by that first weekend. Coming up next, after our national and local news, we'll get to the NFL. Which teams are best built to knock off the Chiefs? We'll discuss coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, halfway home on a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you today. Thanks for spending some of your afternoon hours with us. If you haven't subscribed already to our YouTube channel, well, what are you waiting for? Head on over to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. You can watch along with the show today on video every single day that we're here on the show. And of course, you can check out all of our other video content on YouTube as well. We're also taking your comments on YouTube and your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. Here in the 4 o'clock hour of the show today, we've got some NFL, some Chiefs to get to here in just a moment. We also have What Is Wrong With You coming up in a little bit. And we'll talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, plus your texts and your YouTube comments today. Before we get to this piece from NFL.com, I wanted to revisit something I mentioned yesterday when we talked about how Justin Jefferson was not showing up to OTAs for the Minnesota Vikings as he looks for a new contract. He wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in football. I didn't get a chance to ask Matt Verderam yesterday. I wonder if Justin Jefferson is going to be made the highest paid non-quarterback in football, which I think is very interesting.
What would that take? Who is it right now?
That is a good question.
Matt threw out $35 million a year average annual value for Justin Jefferson, which right now I think it's AJ Brown at 32 a year for wide receivers. So 35 million a year would definitely set the market for wide receivers.
So in terms of average value per year, number one in the league is Nick Bosa. For all non-quarterbacks, it is Nick Bosa, 34 million flat. So 35 would be the highest paid non-quarterback.
Yeah.
He'd be making just under Derek Carr money.
It's so interesting how it fluctuates, right? Like, it's obviously the quarterbacks are always going to be the most valuable guys, the highest paid guys, but we go from left tackles being the highest paid players in the league that are non-quarterbacks, the most valuable players in the league. And then it became edge rushers. And now it might be wide receivers are the next group of players to be atop that list of highest paid non-quarterbacks.
You know, it's interesting you say that. Spotrac recently reformatted and redesigned their website, and for the most part, I don't like it. It was fine before, but they do have this handy tool that is now easily available on their salary rankings page. There are more wide receivers in the top 100 salaries in the league than any other position. It's wide receivers with 21, offensive line and defensive line with 20 each, fairly vague, but 20 each. Quarterbacks are fourth with 17 of the top 100 contracts.
Wow.
Do you know who the highest paid wide receiver is right now?
AJ Brown, right?
AJ Brown. Yeah,
AJ
32 million. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he comes in second at 30 million and change. Third is Tyreek Hill. Those are your top three. Devontae Adams would come in fourth in that category. So yeah, that'd be the highest paid. But we were talking about that on the show yesterday, and I joked that that was going to be enough to feed Chiefs Twitter and the Chiefs blog world with enough content to last us through the entire summer. And while not about Justin Jefferson, it was a somewhat prescient joke because this morning over at arrowheadaddict.com, author Lyle Graverson wrote a blog titled "Why the Kansas City Chiefs Should Trade for DK Metcalf." The Kansas City Chiefs may have already reshaped their wide receiver room this offseason, but that shouldn't stop them from trading for DK Metcalf. Essentially, and a friend of the program, Seth Kaiser, wrote about this a little bit on Twitter as well. Not sure if he posted to his newsletter about it, but essentially it came down to the Chiefs have a decent amount of cap space. They can make more, and why wouldn't you want to add that guy? And the Seahawks don't have cap space.
Yeah,
that's essentially what it comes down to.
The Seahawks are really, really tight to the cap.
My counter to that, if I'm Seattle, is who cares about cap space if your roster is worse?
Right.
Like DK Metcalf, he's the number one on that team. It was Tyler Lockett for a while, but DK is the number one on that team now.
Yes, correct. Like if they were going to trade a wide receiver on a big contract, honestly, the K-State or Tyler Lockett would make a little more sense. And I think he could help the Chiefs. He's obviously older player, The skills are a little diminished from what they were at his best, but still great hands, still a deep ball threat. Like if Chiefs fans want to talk about trading for a Seahawks wide receiver, I think Lyle here is barking up the wrong tree.
No, I agree with you.
I think a Lockett deal might make a little bit more sense.
The hit for Tyler Lockett for this year, cap hit is $18.9 essentially $1 million. 32 years old, but he can still get down. He's lost a step. Who doesn't when they turn 32?
Mm-hmm.
But he's, speaking of the NFL specifically, but he's still a good player. He's still a vertical threat. He's always had good hands. He's always had great body control. Something those K-State dudes are so good at. Jordy Nelson, same way. Best body control I've ever seen. And then he's got 2 years on the contract, but the year after, he's got a cap hit of $31 million, but only 4 dead cap. You cut him and move on if you don't want to keep him or don't have the space. If you're going to trade for someone, you go get him. And I think Seattle is better with both of those guys, obviously, and you know better than I do. They're better with Tyler Lockett, but if you're saying, hey, we got to get a little younger, we need a little more flexibility.
They used the first-round draft pick on a receiver last year.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith-Njigba's probably ready to step into that Tyler Lockett role. Selfishly, based on the team that I root for, I don't want them to trade a good player. I don't want them to trade a good player who I've enjoyed rooting for many years. But from a Chiefs perspective, I think if they're looking to add someone who's going to be impactful for them and do it via trade, I think 3rd, 4th round pick might do it.
I would think so. With that kind of salary, with that age, yeah, I would think so. By the way, if they were going to move him, there's worse places he could go than the team you also cover and watch every game for.
I watch a lot more Chiefs football than Seahawks football, if we're being honest about it.
So not a terrible place for him to end up. But yeah, I thought that was very funny timing that came up. They ain't trading DK Metcalf,
no,
man.
That's absolutely not happening.
He's a legit number 1.
Yeah.
He's good, really good. And yeah, he's getting paid a lot. That's because he's really good. And he's also, they got to figure out these contract things. They're both up after 2025. So DK is going to get paid again. I remember when he signed his second contract because he was so young when he did it. And it was only, a 3-year deal?
I think so.
Yeah, he was setting himself up for a whole lot of money in his career. You also saw this today, Dan, from Jeffrey Chadiha of NFL.com about the 7 teams most likely to replace the Chiefs as Super Bowl champions. So let's give you the 7. We'll give you Jeffrey Chadiha's rankings.
And it's important to note here that the qualifier that Jeffrey uses is he believes that there are only 7 who could realistically dethrone the defending champions. So outside of this particular writer does not consider any other team to be a realistic Super Bowl contender.
Okay.
So we'll start there and we'll explain why we're starting there because we're going to expand on this a little bit. But that's where this list starts. Jeffrey Chadiha believes these are the realistic threats to deny the Chiefs a 3rd straight Super Bowl championship.
So those teams included, in order, he says San Francisco, makes sense.
Yeah.
Baltimore, runner-up in the AFC, makes sense. Number 3, Detroit. 4, Cincinnati. 5, Philadelphia. 6, Buffalo. 7, Houston. So those are his 7, and that is the order in which he ranked them. I don't think that's an especially offensive list. I don't think I agree with all of it, but I think most of it makes sense. The team that you beat and had to come back from a 10-point deficit against in the Super Bowl, went to overtime with in the most recent Super Bowl, and then the runners-up in each conference as your top 3. That makes quite a bit of sense, in fact.
It does.
So are there any teams on this? Start with this group of 7. Are there any teams on this list where you feel like, no, I do not believe the ceiling for this team is Super Bowl championship?
The Bills.
Yeah, I think it's the Bills. And I think McDermott is a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's a good coach. I think they have a great quarterback. I think they will, most people think they're going to finish 1st or 2nd in their division. I think they might surprise people with how good they are kind of retooling things, but I don't think they have the kind of depth of talent to be able to. I don't know that they for sure will win their division, and I don't think they have enough firepower. I have thought they've had a firepower problem for years, but now with everything they lost on defense, in addition to their number 1 receiver, I just think this is a retooling year for them. I think they'll be good. I think Josh Allen will look awesome because he is awesome. I don't think they have the horses or bison in this case.
Shadia's case is, and I'll quote from him directly, this is a team that has found ways to thrive despite a variety of setbacks in recent years. That's not going to change just because Buffalo had to bid farewell to some aging stars. Yes, Stephon Diggs was a great player, but the Bills' offense still thrived in the second half of last season without him lighting it up. Yes, this team will miss veteran leadership in the secondary from guys like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Tre'Davious White. Guess what? All those guys have been banged up over the last 3 years, and somehow the Bills pressed on. The reality is all teams lose key players eventually. The best ones know how to prepare and adjust, which is something the Chiefs proved over the last 2 seasons. Well, and like I get the argument, but I would counter that by saying, yeah, they've lost all those guys, but they've also, yes, they've been successful. They've won games. They've been to the playoffs, but they have not been a real threat.
No.
Once they've reached the playoffs, in the same way that they were, like, their best team was the one that lost the overtime game in Kansas City.
Yes.
In 2021.
13 seconds.
That was their best shot. And in the 2 years since, they've been a diminished version of that team, which is still a very good team with a great quarterback, but not one that has put any fear in the heart of anybody in January.
With the benefit of hindsight, that 2021 AFC was insanely stacked. That's the best Bills team of this era, best Bengals team of this era, not the best Chiefs team of this era, but still
a Mahomes Chiefs team.
Still the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
And Travis
right.
Kelce, yeah.
Right. Like they were still really dang good. Crazy how stacked the top of the AFC was that year. So how would you order these? If you were going to run with these 7 presented, how would you order them? Or would you knock out Buffalo and or someone else and replace them with another team?
So I would rank them San Francisco, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Detroit. And then after that, probably, I guess I might go Houston over Philadelphia and Buffalo. And the reason I might go Houston over Philadelphia and Buffalo is they're playing the game on easy mode right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've got the quarterback on the rookie deal. So they've been able to enhance their depth in other places that Philadelphia and Buffalo haven't quite been able to do. If the last few years have proven anything, it's been the teams that have jumped up and competed and been in Super Bowl contention outside of the team with Tom Brady or that weird Rams year, the post-COVID, the post-COVID season where the Rams, that I think is going to be looked upon as a bit of a historical outlier, that Rams championship.
Yeah.
The teams that have made the Super Bowl, the teams that have pushed Mahomes, the teams that have been like realistic contenders are the teams that have not yet had to pay their quarterback. Which is why I think this list is short a team.
Who would you add?
I would add Green Bay.
That makes me feel better because I also but I'm very aware that I'm biased in that take. Yeah.
Packers owner Brendan Wrzinski, co-owner,
yes,
shareholder, thinks the Packers are good is not breaking news.
No.
But they're on easy mode right now. They're not paying Jordan Love a lot. Like he's not on an arduous deal that ties up a bunch of their salary cap room.
Yep.
All of their other offensive playmakers are on reasonable contracts or rookie contracts. They're not going to have a bozo running the defense next year. They should
theoretically
step forward in that department. And look, the fact that we have seen Jordan Love go on the road and ball the hell out in a playoff game, that tells me they've got the constitution for a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
That tells me they're built for it in a way that I think you need to prove before you actually go and do it.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. And I would have put Green Bay on this. I would put them at the bottom of the list, too, because defense got to prove a lot. Offense is still going to be young. Love was great in that Cowboys game. It was good for 3 quarters against the 49ers. And was really bad in the 4th quarter against the 49ers. So I'd put Green Bay at the bottom of this list. I think the only other flip I would make, because I actually agree with you on Houston over Philadelphia. I feel like Philly could win a Super Bowl, but I also at the same time, and this might sound kind of dumb after saying that, I feel like Houston has a higher ceiling. And maybe that's just because we haven't seen it for as long with them, whereas we've seen it for a longer period of time now with Philadelphia. But I still feel like you've got a higher ceiling with that Houston team. Maybe a lower floor because, again, still young head coach. Oh, Philly's got a fairly young head coach, too. I would put Houston over them. The only flip I would make, and this probably won't come as a surprise, I would put Cincinnati 2 barely ahead of Baltimore, like almost even. I'd put Cincinnati slightly ahead just because Baltimore has had to change over so many key players from a year ago.
See, I have 49ers, Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Eagles, Lions, then Bills.
Texans even higher. I don't hate it, honestly.
I mean, it goes back to what Dan said about having to pay their quarterback. Not having to pay their quarterback.
Yeah.
And being able to build around him for those couple of years that they have left.
Because that depth you can build up, that matters over the course of a 17-game season in a playoff run.
Let me ask you a different question then here. What if we made this not 2024? What if we gave you like the next 3 seasons? So you have to take like who has been drafted recently, where teams stand today. Is it totally out of the question to say that you can make an argument for Houston 1 or 2 on this list?
No, and I think I almost would. Because they haven't had to pay the quarterback yet, there's a little more stability with their roster because they can add more than they've got to make tough decisions about who they're going to keep. Like Cincinnati right now is in that tough decision portion of the building of a franchise where you've paid Burrow. Now you got to figure out which luxuries you can afford to keep around him and which luxuries you're going to have to replace through the draft and development. Buffalo is there and very much there with this year. Philadelphia is about to be there. San Francisco is in a really interesting spot because they might just keep rolling quarterback over. Like, I don't think they're going to pay Brock Purdy. We've talked about this. I really am convinced they're not going to pay Brock Purdy. They're going to say, we found Brock Purdy on accident. We'll find another one.
Yeah.
And he'll run the Shanahan offense with these playmakers around him, and we'll put a good offensive line in front of him, and we'll cook. We'll be good because that's what they've been.
Just draft 2 every year until they find the guy.
That wouldn't make me want to move Green Bay up those rankings again with the young quarterback. It's too early to say it about any of the guys we haven't seen too much of.
Yeah.
But like, then you start talking about like, what if Anthony Richardson stays healthy for a year and he's that guy in Indianapolis? What if Caleb's really good right away in Chicago?
One thing about the Colts, I feel like the Colts are going to be just a team that I glom onto this year because I was impressed by what we saw from Anthony Richardson in a limited sample.
Yeah.
I'm also terrified that he's going to play like 4 years and his body will just fall to pieces. He got injured like 3 times in 5 weeks. That worries me. They were a game, or maybe even percentage points shy of the playoffs. They had to play 2/3 of a season with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback. I think Shane Steichen is an awesome coach if they can keep that thing going. They've got weapons. They've got a good offensive line. Their defense is, I think, good enough. Sort of in the Chiefs mold, not as good as the Chiefs, but in years prior to this one, we're like, yeah, you just need to be good enough and you can win. I kind of think that's where the Colts defense is. Worse offense, obviously. That's a team that I think is fascinating, though. And you're right on with how will some of these quarterbacks develop. And you can go right down the line. Like if, let's use Washington, for example. Like, I am very low on Jaden Daniels. But what if I'm wrong? Like, what if he comes out and, oh, shoot, he's good. And all of a sudden, all those depth moves they've made this year, those turn out to be, no, those are like actual good moves that made you a team that can contend in the East right away. Then you're talking about that ceiling goes way high. Whereas Philadelphia and Dallas, when they've got to pay $50 million a year for Hurts and Dak, suddenly their arrow starts to point down.
The common theme here is it's good to have a franchise quarterback.
Have a cheap quarterback or Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, and it's best to have a cheap quarterback. And either way, your quarterback is not as good as Kansas City's quarterback.
Yeah.
So you better, whoever your quarterback is, all 31 other starters in this league who are not Patrick Mahomes have the same problem. They ain't Patrick Mahomes.
I keep forgetting that the Texans went out and got Stephon Diggs. Like, I know he was traded to Houston by Buffalo, but I keep forgetting, oh, shoot, yeah, they have him. Like, that's That is absolutely the right thing to do if you're Houston. Spend right now. You've got 3 more years to spend a ton of money because CJ Stroud is getting paid peanuts to maybe be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Go get those dudes over and over. And yeah, they absolutely deserve a spot near the top of that list.
Couple of thoughts from the YouTube comments here before we go to a break. Our pal Lenny Dawson believes it's the Lions and the Bengals with the best chance this season to dethrone the Chiefs. Paul in the YouTube live chat says the team with the best chance to stop the Chiefs is definitely from the NFC. The AFC had their shot last year against a down
It's a fair point.
teams, and nobody wanted to do it. No, yeah, like the Buffalo and Baltimore got the Chiefs at home in the playoffs and couldn't snatch the crown. Like, how demoralizing must that be for those organizations to feel like this was our chance? We came at the king and we missed.
No, that's I hadn't even considered that, but that is a good point. One quick thing. I know we're going a little bit long here. We have to get to a commercial break. I did not know this until yesterday, but this is crazy. Jared Goff, quarterback of the Lions, generally speaking, has been much better playing inside than playing outside in his career. Completion percentage is higher. Passer rating is 10 points higher. Throws far fewer interceptions on average. The Lions, guess how many outdoor games they play this year?
At least 2 in the division, like 4 or 5.
Three. The Detroit Lions play 3 outdoor games this year with a quarterback who indoors is quite good.
They only play 1 game out of their division outdoors.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's it. They might win 14 games just because they play indoors so much.
Who's that team?
That's a good question. I'll have to look that up. I'll look it up during the commercial break. We do have to take a stoppage. What is wrong with you is next. Then we will get to Jayhawk Weekly with Jayhawk Weekly. Goodness gracious, with Michael Swain. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Quick, what is wrong with you today before we get to Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain, our winner from yesterday's show. It was the guy who was mad he had to wait in the Wendy's drive-thru, so he took his shirt off, went into the Wendy's, and then started threatening the workers with finger guns.
He held it up at finger gun point.
That's our current winner. My story is going to take us to Tampa, the Tampa area, where a guy got crossfaded and stole a bus. A man from Land O'Lakes had quite a night after stealing a school bus and going on an illegal field trip. 32-year-old Daniel Saez stole a bus from Hillsborough County School District on Saturday, and then he drove it all the way to Miami. However, troopers caught Saez while he was making his trip back to Tampa, stopping him at the Jacaranda Boulevard and Executive Drive exit in Sarasota. The Florida Highway Patrol said Saez told troopers he was, quote, high and drunk when he stole the bus and was driving it back to Tampa to return it. Well, he was returning it. He just borrowed it while high and drunk.
Taking a little joyride.
He was arrested on a charge of grand theft.
Yeah, from Tampa, the Hillsborough School District.
Yeah, he just...
Wait, that was it? He wasn't DUI'd?
Apparently not. No DUI for being high and drunk. Just grand theft.
Wild.
Yeah. Just wanted to take a bus.
Did he think that was going to get him out of it?
How? Tampa to Miami is quite a drive. He must have had to stop for gas.
You would think.
Yeah. That's quite a distance. So yeah, just got high and wanted to steal a bus.
For my story today, guys, are you under the impression that it is a good idea or a bad idea to use gasoline to ignite an indoor fire? Would you think that was a good idea or a bad idea?
I will venture an opinion that is not a good idea.
Spencer, where do you come down on the topic of using gasoline to light an indoor fire? Is that something you would do?
I think that's a terrible idea, sir.
So if local fire department has to warn people not to do that, you would assume something very stupid happened, wouldn't you? That is the case in Croton-on-Hudson in New Jersey. They are reminding residents about the dangers of using gasoline to start indoor fires. After crews responded to an incident at a home on Friday, firefighters traveled to the scene following a report of heavy smoke coming from the chimney. Upon arrival, they discovered a fire in a fireplace with a large amount of smoke in and around the residence. Officials found that the homeowner had used gasoline and paper to light it. Units operated for just over an hour and the flames were extinguished. The department urges residents to never use highly flammable fuel to light indoor fires.
Bro, what? Come on.
This
Also, for what it's worth, Croton-on-Hudson sounds like it's a town in a Shakespeare play.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I feel like they play like Swindon Town in the English Premier League or something. Yeah, like things have gone really, really wrong, though, in your place of residence if the fire department has to say, hey, y'all, just a quick heads up. If you were thinking about using gasoline for an indoor fire, don't.
I'm going to vote for that one today just on general principle. I know there's no specifics with it or minimal specifics with it. I'm going to go with that one for today. I don't think that beats the finger gun holdup, though.
No, finger gun point is really, really strong.
No way you beat that.
Standing on a table in an empty Wendy's, waving your hands around like they are firearms.
While shirtless.
While shirtless, yes.
That, once again, is our winner in today's What Is Wrong With You. Coming up on the other side of this break, we'll talk all things KU with Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Swain joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. You can go find all of Michael's work covering the Kansas Jayhawks at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can also follow him on Twitter at mswain24/7. Michael, how about that KU baseball win early this morning? Breakfast and baseball with the Jayhawks, and a pretty big win over K-State in the opener.
Yeah, most definitely. And look, I think probably one of the biggest benefits is the way the schedule now plays out, where they get a day off and don't have to play till Thursday, which is huge, right? In a double elimination tournament, you skip a day of play. That's pretty big. So it's a great start to the week for KU baseball, that's for sure.
Pardon me being a little fanboy reporter here for a moment, but I do think it is worth bringing up, talking about, how many strides the football team has made. Obviously, men's basketball is going to do its thing, but we're late in the year, the academic year, and KU baseball is relevant. And the women's basketball team has done a great job in the portal. They've made the NCAA tournament 2 of the last 3 years, won the women's NIT. I really do think Travis Goff deserves a lot of credit for helping these programs get to a place where they're being talked about and they're not just footnotes. And obviously track is great. And Stanley Redwine's going over to Paris for the Olympics. This is a good athletic department now. And largely, you can really point to when Goff got hired, when before, baseball team wasn't going anywhere and softball wasn't doing anything and women's basketball was a complete afterthought. This athletic department as a whole has made a massive turn recently.
Totally. And I think one of the cooler parts is that, you're right. It's late in the academic year and you had football players at the baseball game. You've had, baseball players at football games. I think just the collective, probably feeling around the athletic department is a lot more of a big joined up group maybe than it is just a bunch of individual teams and people kind of doing their own thing over the course of the year. So it is really cool. And I think, look, the hire of Dan Fitzgerald, I think he's recruited really well to KU. This season has been solid. I think obviously you can look at some time and say, man, KU really could have used that result or that win, but that's also part of building a program, right? You got to go through some of those tougher moments to get to the end goal, which is being a much more consistent team. And KU's definitely taken strides to get there, right? We're talking about a baseball team that is still in the NCAA tournament picture, not super firmly, but still in it. And we're talking about, a team now that is going to have a chance at potentially making a little bit of a run in the Big 12 tournament. That's huge. And so I think you're right. The overall athletic department, I think really the spring sports late on really keep people interested going into May. I think that's huge.
Talking to Michael Swain of fog.net and 24/7 Sports. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Go check out Michael's great work covering KU at fog.net and over at 24/7. Let's get to men's basketball here, Michael. We were talking on the show yesterday, and I had mentioned, there are some whispers, and Michael's been reporting over at fog.net that maybe West Virginia commit Javon Small. Maybe he hasn't fully signed on with West Virginia yet. And then I think 10 minutes after I said that, he officially signed with West Virginia. So obviously off the table. How real was KU's interest in him even after he had verbally committed to the Mountaineers?
Super real, super real. It's one of those where you kind of continue to pursue things until it's over. And, Small hadn't signed with West Virginia yet. That's very odd, right? A guy that has committed for a month now hasn't signed. That's super different. So yeah, KU made a late run at him, went to the West Virginia visit. If he hadn't signed on the visit there, he would have been in Lawrence today for a visit. So that's how close things were. And look, that's how it works in recruiting, right? A guy was already committed elsewhere. It's kind of hard to get that officially over the line when another staff has gotten it to a certain point where there's public commitment. So KU definitely went after him, but look, now it's on to Jackson Robinson and potentially other guys.
Jackson Robinson, before we get to fit or anything like that, do you have an inkling right now? I know he's going through the draft process. Do you know if he's got a lean toward going pro or coming back to college? And, it's not like a situation with some guys where, they've already committed somewhere, so it's draft or back to one school. He's still being recruited in the portal as well. I believe it's Arkansas and John Calipari who are also after, maybe it was Kentucky. I can't remember exactly, but what do you think is his lean right now, either going pro or coming back to school?
I think probably, look, I think a lot of guys these days in an ideal world would want to go pro. I remember last year, from the feeling around Kevin McCullough was he wanted no business of going back to school. And there's probably some things that can be written about later about, the way things play out and over the course of a season. But for someone like Jackson Robinson, like, he's been in school since COVID, and obviously next year would be his COVID year. So this is a guy that's already played 4 seasons, and not everyone wants to go back to school and deal with everything that comes with being a student athlete, because even if that term has been maybe a little bit diminished now with guys making money and everything going on at the NCAA, these guys still have to go to class, and they still have to manage a workload of things outside of the sport. And sometimes they don't want to do that. So I think for Robinson right now, I think he probably is leaning towards going pro, but I think sometimes too, you can lean away, and all of a sudden the feedback you start getting as the decision gets closer is a lot more strongly one way or the other. So he's still got 9 days, I think, 8 days. He's got till next Wednesday to make that decision, whether he wants to stay in the NBA draft or go back to school. And, right now I think it's still definitely up in the air. Nothing is official, but I think, he probably would, in his own ideal world, probably go pro.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, check out Michael's work at Fog.net or find him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, with the announcement that the Big 12 basketball schedule will be 20 games, 2 games a week, no bye weeks coming up, how does that increase the importance of having the kind of depth that Bill Self has tried to assemble with this year's roster? And how maybe does that change the approach in recruiting, where you can tell the player, hey, look, it ain't going to be 38, 39 minutes a night for our starters every night out. We'll burn out before March. We're going to need everybody. We're really going to need those 8 to 9 starters or starter caliber players that Self talked about acquiring when the portal opened up.
Yeah, you said it great right there. That's exactly going to be the recruiting pitch for KU. Because, look, the league's hard, right? I think everyone that watches it knows that. But I'm just so baffled by the decision to take away a bye week. I understand that, or not even a week, right? Just a bye where you don't play midweek. Like, that's just crazy. And that's the conference making things even harder on its own team. And obviously now they're going to start a week earlier. And that's just, it's going to be tough. And then Bill Self has said it's going to be a grind. I think there's a reason that I think if you got the poll, a lot of coaches would be against this, because this takes away some of your non-con games, right? Some of those cupcake games where, maybe you're buying a game or two and you can play some of those younger guys and develop them. Well, now all of a sudden the schedule is going to be so much tougher, where you're starting December 31st. Basically, you got 3 straight months of playing twice a week against really good teams. And if this league is officiated the way it was officiated this past year, these teams are going to wear down. It's going to happen because they're allowing them to play way too physical. Like Bill Self complained about it a lot last year. I mean, you saw Scott Drew get ejected for the first time. Kelvin Sampson got ejected in a fiery altercation. Like, these coaches are kind of fed up with it. And I'm frankly I'm not shocked. Brett Yormark does a lot of stuff for money, and that's exactly what this is a play for. Right? You add more games to the TV schedule, and you're going to get more money. But this is something that I think, rightfully so, the coaches were definitely against.
We're starting to see more chatter about the incoming or the upcoming high school class of 2025. And Kansas is going to be involved, as they always are, with the blue chip caliber prospects in that class. How much, if at all, do you sense a change in the philosophy of recruiting high school players from Kansas's perspective? Are they changing the way they deal with those players, changing how wide a net they cast, given how prevalent the transfer portal is? Or with all of the COVID guys ultimately losing eligibility after this year, maybe now there's more importance on recruiting those high school guys, starting with this next 2025 class?
Yeah, so I think there's a happy medium there. I think KU under Self, just my inkling that I get, my feeling, I think KU is going to be leaning towards being more of a 60-40 transfer portal program than it is going to be a 60-40 we're recruiting high school guys, because experience wins in college basketball. And let's be real here, Bill Self does not have another decade or two, right? And it's about winning, and winning at the highest level you can possibly do. So how are you going to do that? Is it going to be through recruiting big high school classes, 5 guys, 6 guys? I don't think so. That's a huge chunk of your rotation that's so inexperienced. Dan, if you are going to play a grueling conference season like you are with 20 league games, right? We see it every year. Freshmen have a wall they hit. Grady Dick had that happen. Johnny Furphy had that happen. Like, it happens to a lot of freshmen. And so I think for KU, it's going to be a focus on the portal in the off seasons. And then, of course, they're going to recruit a lot of high-level talent. Like, KU would love to have Darius Acuff on the roster next year to be the point guard. Like, they will still love that and recruit those one-and-done high-caliber players while also sprinkling in some developmental guys. But I think every off season, KU's going to go out and get 3 or 4 of the top transfers, and that's how they're going to build the rotation. Because in college basketball right now, for these elite programs, these are one-year roster builds. That's how the approach is. Whether the coaches, like it or not, that's just how it's working, right? Because if you're a young guy, these situations of Marco Jackson and Jamari McDowell are not super common across college basketball. Right? If you're an elite recruit and you don't play much as a freshman, and it doesn't look like you're going to play much as a sophomore, they typically leave. And so that creates a certain roster churn that then I think the coaches have to deal with. So I think for that reason, you're going to see coaches like Bill Self go after the guys in the portal that are proven, that have shown they can do it at other places, and get them and try and build the team like that year over year.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Michael, do you think that, back to the scheduling, the new scheduling with the no buys, do you think that's something that the conference might look at as a trial period, or is it locked in that this is how it's going to go with this set amount of teams in the conference? Like, do you think there could be a bye week implemented later on down the line?
I think, well, look, if there's enough pushback from coaches and enough pushback generally, like, I could see them changing it. But I think the conference really wanted to get that other 2 games, right? Because it's still, it's funny. College basketball very much, and college athletics period, has become very much business oriented in the last few years. You see a lot of these moves are money driven, and that's what a move like this is for. So could we see that happen as maybe some middle ground? I would not be shocked. And, the conference can choose its own rules, right? These aren't like contracts with other things that end up getting locked in. You can never change. Like, if the conference, decides, okay, we actually need to implement one bye game throughout the course of the season, right? Where 1 week where you don't play midweek, like, that would not shock me. And I think it's going to come down to how this season goes, because I think it's going to determine a lot, and just how the coaches, how much they end up pushing back on it.
Finishing things up with Michael Swain from Fog.net, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Of course, all of Michael's work can be found at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. A quick pivot over to football, Michael. You had a post up and tweeted a poll about this earlier this week about who should be the highest rated KU football player in the upcoming College Football 25 game. I can understand the idea for Jalen Daniels. I can understand the idea for Kobe Bryant, but Devin Neal is KU's best player, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I don't know. I know a lot about EA Sports and what they're going to try and do with this game. That's probably not going to be great for people, but I think they're going to nail that. I think Devin Neal will be the highest rated player in the game. And I'm pretty fascinated to see how they handle this, and to see how kind and maybe unkind they are with certain programs and the way they do it. So, yeah, I'm fascinated to see, guys. Like, I'm excited for the game. Got a little bit of reservations just myself, but Devin Neal should be the highest. I think probably Kobe Bryant second, Jalen Daniels probably third. But, we got to see with that one.
Does KU have the best running back room in the conference?
I don't know. Honestly, I have not had the chance to. I've been so busy with the recruiting stuff. I've not had the chance to dive into some of the conference preview stuff. I think they've got the best running back in the conference. I love Ollie Gordon. I think he's a great running back. But I think if you talk to other coaches around the conference, they would say that if they're going to pick one, they're going to pick Devin Neal because of the consistency in which he has done it over the last few years. And I think just Ollie Gordon got on a heater. And I think we've seen that before with Oklahoma State running backs, right? Cuba Hubbard had an incredible season, returned, and was not able to match it. Devin Neal has been able to match his production and improve year over year. So I think KU does have definitely the best running back in the conference.
One last question about that running backs room, because it looks right now like, we know who the top 2 are. We know it's Neal, who is a true number 1 back. We know Daniel Highshaw is there and has number 1 back kind of abilities. How deep do you think that running back rotation will be this year, if you had to guess on May 21st?
Well, I think they're going to continue to use Neal and Highshaw, and I'm fascinated to see how that kind of third spot shakes out because, Sevion Morrison is the experienced guy at that position, but he's just really struggled to stay healthy, and you never know how that's going to be able to pan out, right? Can he put it together and have a full season? And if not, then you're looking at some talented youngsters, right? You got guys like Harry Stewart or Johnny Thompson in that room, both of whom have had really good flashes during practice over the last 18 months. So I think the room could be sneaky deep. It's just not going to have maybe a lot of guys outside of Neal and Highshaw that have had proven production. On one hand, because the health of Sevion Morrison is limited from having that, and then also the other because we're talking freshmen here, right? And I think something at least for the running back position is that freshmen can't play it early because it is not one that is super physically dependent like it is playing in the trenches, right? Where I think year in and year out, you see freshman running backs come into college football and they're able to hold their own. So I think it should be pretty deep. If Sevion Morrison can stay healthy, then we're talking about really, really deep. But that, again, we'll have to see how that plans out over the course of the season.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday afternoon here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Michael, as always, man, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much. And take a break from the recruiting stuff if you get a chance, okay?
Oh, yeah, I wish. It never stops, guys. It never stops.
That is Michael Swain from Fog.net, the absolute best insight into everything going on with the Kansas Jayhawks. And when you cover a team like KU basketball, the news never stops with that either. But we appreciate Michael taking the time for us. We've got to get to one final news break on the show today. We'll come back and we will lead off the 5 o'clock hour with today's sports headlines right here on 580 Sports Talk. now, final hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and Trenton Kraxner here with you today. Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon hours with us. Been a very full day, been a very fun day, and we thank you for spending the final hour of the show with us. If you have missed any of the show up to this point, head on over to our website, 580wibw.com, go to the podcasts tab, and then click on 580 Sports Talk, and that is where you will find the show broken down hour by hour, today and every day. You can also go check out the show on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the YouTube channel. You can go back, rewind any of the show today, watch it live, leave a comment, and go check out the entire back catalog of shows as well, going all the way back to Halloween of 2022. Every single show since then, cataloged and viewable to you on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we've got your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line. We've got your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel or on Facebook, WIBW News, also streaming the show over there today. And we, of course, will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we will preview Royals versus Tigers coming up tonight. Short show tomorrow. We've got a Royals day game finale between the Royals and the Tigers. Aces both on the mound. Cole Reagans versus Tark Skubal tomorrow. So we will be off the air as soon as that game goes final and post-game concludes on the Royals radio networks. We'll join you sometime around 4 o'clock tomorrow. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us. We'll have Andy Reid audio from Chiefs OTAs. All that is coming up tomorrow here on 580 Sports Talk. Right now, though, it is time to get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. First one I've got for you, an update on the most recent police investigation involving Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. This is the writing of Adam Teicher of ESPN. The injured person in an alleged May 6th assault at a Dallas nightclub in which Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is reportedly a suspect has asked police not to file charges. That is originally according to the Dallas police. Asked by email about the status of the investigation, Dallas police responded by saying, quote, "The reporting party has signed an affidavit of non-prosecution. The investigation is ongoing." So they are still working on the case for now. However, and there are other reports indicating this as well, the person who allegedly was struck by Rashee Rice at the Lit Kitchen and Lounge Club in Dallas, Texas, has since said or called it a misunderstanding and no longer is interested in pressing charges against the Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. So assuming the investigation does not turn up anything else incriminating against the second-year Chiefs wide receiver, that will at least be one legal matter that he no longer has to deal with. He, of course, is still facing 8 felony charges in relation to a collision involving injury earlier this spring in Dallas during a street racing incident. So, assuming, again, nothing else turns up in this investigation, this is finally some positive news for Rashee Rice, who could really use some.
So just because the person involved now does not want charges to be brought to Rashee Rice does not necessarily mean that charges will not be brought forward against Rashee Rice. It's going to now be a police investigation, and they will determine whether or not anything should be prosecuted. But it, I suppose, is a step in a positive direction for Rice's innocence here, or a lack of culpability, I guess, that the victim in this case is saying, yeah, actually, maybe we shouldn't go down this road.
Yeah, so hopefully good news, but like everything, we will wait until the investigation concludes before making any other assumptions.
So the first story for me today, the Big 12 Conference became the first named party in the House versus NCAA case to vote to settle the case and any related antitrust cases. This case has been in the courts for a while, and a settlement has been agreed upon in principle, but everybody has to vote for the settlement for the NCAA to agree to it. The member conferences of the NCAA have to vote for it, and then the NCAA has to pass the settlement measure. The key parts of the settlement, this is essentially to settle some disputes over revenue and pay some back damages in relation to name, image, and likeness. The NCAA's payment of back damages is expected to be $2.7 billion spread out over a decade. And $1.6 billion of that in this settlement is coming in reduction of NCAA revenue distribution to its member schools. Of that $1.6 billion, 40% of it is coming from the 5 power conferences, your Autonomy 5, your Pac-12, which still exists as a voting block, if not as a league that you're going to see compete next year. The Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC. You know the Autonomy 5.
Yes.
Those 5 conferences would have 40% of that $1.6 billion coming out of their revenue distribution. The other 60% is proposed to come out of the pockets of the 22 non-FBS leagues. So your Southland conferences, your Mountain Wests, your America East, your Sun Belts, they're footing 60% of the bill. And yes, it's 22 leagues compared to just 5. But as one Power 5 commissioner or non-Power 5 commissioner told Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated, in absolute dollars, the Power 5 schools are going to pay more. In relative dollars, this is going to have an inequitable result for us. These damages are football related and going to largely go to Power 5 football players and men's basketball players. So why are we footing that bill? Here's another non-FBS commissioner speaking anonymously to Pat Forty. The settlement discussions have been ongoing for months, and the settlement itself is a good thing, but the strategy for paying damages was just pushed on us in the last week, and they presented it to us like, you're welcome. Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, has been spending too much time in meeting rooms listening to the power conferences. Those 22 leagues would like to see the percentage of revenue distribution reduction flipped. 58% of the reductions coming from the Power 5, 42% from the rest of Division 1. So there's the dispute at hand here is that, yes, in absolute dollars, it's going to cost the Power 5 schools more to settle this. But a $150,000 revenue hit to a non-Power 5 school is a lot more damaging to their athletic budget than a $450,000 hit to a Power 5 athletic budget.
So I went in to look this up really quickly. The University of Kansas, which, by the way, Douglas Girard, the chancellor of the University of Kansas, has come out and said, well, we don't have that money to spend. Like, we don't necessarily want to spend that money. We don't just have it lying around when you explained how it's going to come out, but essentially said, we don't want to pay that much money. KU's revenue, athletic revenue this past year, 2023, fiscal year 2023. Do you know what it is? Do you have a guess what it is?
7 figures, or we get up to 8? Now we got to be 8 figures, don't we?
9
figures.
Wow.
128.
Okay.
That is total athletic revenue. So that doesn't include any expenses or anything. That is just total athletic revenue, $128 million plus. Do you know what the total revenue for the America East Conference was in fiscal year 2023?
I would be shocked if it's even 10%, 5% of that.
10.8 million.
Yeah.
128 for one school. And KU is probably closer to the middle of the pack than it is to like Alabama or Georgia, schools that have tons of football money. And America East, which is being asked to contribute to this other block of 22, 10.8. The net income, this is according to ProPublica and their nonprofit organization Explorer, the net income for the America East Conference last fiscal year, $156,000. You would have to multiply that by 5 to be, or more than that, like 6 or 7 times to be able to pay a veteran minimum salary to one NFL player. That was the total net income for that whole conference. Now, granted, is that one of the smallest conferences in the country? Yes. Currently, they do not sponsor football. That might change in the future. They do not currently sponsor football. So they are truly smaller than small. But those are the kind of leagues we're talking about here. The gap between the Power 5 and the Mountain West is Power 4 and the Mountain West is huge.
Mm-hmm.
The gap even between the Mountain West and the NEC or the America East is incomprehensible. Like, there's huge and then there is gargantuan.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes gargantuan look small.
And those schools are set within this settlement to pay such a price that they're going to have to look at how they do business. And it is likely that the end result is maybe they got to drop sports.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they got to drop athletics. And on the one hand, hey, if you can't afford it, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Like, if you can't afford to try and run with the big dogs, then maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should be satisfied being Division 2 or Division 3. Like, maybe that's more your lane. But what this will do is it will stratify even further the autonomy from everyone else.
Yep.
There is one league in particular that is really trying to throw the brakes on this, the Big East, because they are a power conference in basketball.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it. But of course, they are not a football sponsoring conference. And because so much of this revenue that is being pulled back to settle this case is going to go to Power 5 football players or Power 5 football, the Big East is wondering, why are we on the hook for that? Why are we going to be on the hook for a sport that we don't sponsor?
I would feel like they shouldn't be on that list, to be honest with you, or they should not be included in that. I feel for them, to be frank. I truly believe this. We are going to get to a point where we have to restructure the entire NCAA, whether it's under the name, the NCAA, or something else. It is going to have to be the organization of FBS, FCS, Division 1, Division 2. I think we are going to have to see a complete overhaul of what it looks like and who is competing against who regularly. And that is going to affect the Big 12, conferences like the Big East, conferences like the Mountain West, like the America East. That's going to affect the MIAA. If you restructured everything, and I mean everything, at least Divisions 1 and 2, because D3 still doesn't give athletic scholarships. But if you're talking all of Division 1 and Division 2, like, the MIAA should be, in terms of quality of play and competition, is closer to some FCS conferences than it is to some Division 2 conferences. All of it at some point, I think, is going to have to be adjusted, and we're going to have to see new levels of competition fleshed out, because it's just untenable at this point. And this is going to make it even more untenable, making them pay that much money.
Yeah.
The Northeast Conference cannot afford that. They can't. Not as they're currently formatted, which I know is what you just said, but I get why some, like, the power leagues are trying to do this. But yeah, if you're the Big East, or certainly smaller than the Big East, it's going to get ugly financially, probably in the very near future. Spencer, what you got for us?
Turn my mic on. Maybe that would help.
Usually does.
The Washburn Ichabod's men's tennis season unfortunately came to an end today in the round of 16 in the NCAA tournament. They finished the season 20-5 after they fell to Wayne State.
Wayne State.
Number 20 Wayne State 4-3 in the tennis match today, but a heck of a season for Washburn men's tennis.
Yeah, awesome season for Ichabod's tennis. The men and women making it to the NCAA tournament for their respective sports. It's been a great, and I mean truly great, year for Washburn athletics, and it's been cool to follow that men's tennis team throughout the season so far. And you get bounced in the first round of the tournament. Obviously, that doesn't feel great, but all things. I'm sorry. I knew it was coming. I could feel it that whole time I was talking, and it finally came out. I apologize. Bless me. But no, awesome season, and I hope they hang their heads high. Don't hang their heads at all. They hold their heads high, because it was an awesome season for Washburn tennis, and a big shout out to the entire program, both men's and women's included there. Next headline for me is sticking with college sports. Jaden Rashada was at one point, quarterback of the future at Florida, and decommitted and left. Ended up at Arizona State. He then decommitted again. Where did he end up? Do you know where he ended up after leaving Arizona State? Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia.
That's where he went. Went to Georgia. Going to try to replace Carson Beck after this coming season. So when he was being recruited, this was a very dramatic recruitment. He had signed with Florida, did ask out of his national letter of intent. There was all sorts of drama about him flipping from Miami to Florida, how much money Miami had offered him in terms of NIL income, what Florida was offering him, myriad things. Very dramatic recruitment. Well, now, after all of that, Jaden Rashada is suing has filed a complaint in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida that claims that he was repeatedly lied to by Florida and by people like head coach Billy Napier to get him to flip his commitment from Miami to Florida. Gators head coach Billy Napier, former Florida director of NIL and player engagement Marcus Castro Walker, and well-known UF booster Hugh Hathcock are named as defendants in this complaint. The lawsuit also names Hathcock's former company, Velocity Automotive, which was supposed to help fund his financial package in NIL. On3.com is currently reaching out to all the defendants for comment. Georgia head coach Kirby Smart, Jaden Rashada's current coach and chief rival of the Florida Gators, one of their chief rivals, is aware of the lawsuit being filed and even, in fact, signed off on it. That is a really funny line. So essentially what this comes down to, Jaden Rashada was a big-time quarterback recruit. He originally committed to Miami. They've got a bunch of NIL money to throw around. What's the dude's name? John Ruiz.
Yeah, the Life Wallet guy or whatever.
Yeah, Life Wallet, who I believe is also facing scrutiny for various financial misdeeds.
He's a Miami businessman that kind of comes with the territory. Yeah. He's the one that broke off Nigel Pack.
Yes, his $800K in a car. Yeah. So he flips to Florida. Again, lots of NIL drama. He signs his national letter of intent, is claiming that he was lied to and these NIL promises were not delivered on. So he asks out of his letter of intent, ends up eventually going to Arizona State, started a few games for them this year, now is transferring to Georgia. And he is suing them over these broken promises. Number one, I mean, if this is true, then yeah, Florida, you kind of get what you have coming to you. But also, not to be overly cynical, but we knew this was coming at some point, right? And I don't say that to be anti-NIL rights or anything like that, but I sort of assumed at some point someone was going to handle this inappropriately. Probably a school or boosters or whoever before players would. And I'm not surprised at all, after all the drama from this recruitment, that it's this player who ends up in the middle of it.
Yeah. If you told me like on January 1st, hey, this year, this is something that's coming down the pike in the world of sports in 2024, somebody's going to sue for non-payment on an NIL deal. Yeah, Jaden Rashada would have been my first guess. Because the numbers that were being thrown around, they seemed ridiculous at the time, but now we come to find out they were real. Like there was a big contract that was allegedly in place and that was allegedly not adhered to by the people who entered into that agreement with Rashada. And so that's what we've got here. Now Rashada's going to a fourth different school. He played some for Arizona State last year. Wasn't half bad.
Yeah.
And he'll
hey, a lot of other problems worse than him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'm not surprised that we're going to litigation over this, and it's probably not going to be the last time that we go to litigation over NIL problems.
And when you talk about there being no guardrails for this stuff, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot when we talk about NIL. Where are the guardrails? Yeah, there aren't any anywhere to be found, not just within the structure of the NCAA, just like within the structure of how the process works when it comes to agreeing to terms with a player and making sure that payments are made and agreements are adhered to.
There should be some way to verify things that are offered. I'm not saying I need to know exactly what Velocity Automotive offered Jaden Rashada in 2022 to get him to commit. That's not what I'm saying. But there's got to be some way to get some something in writing so we know, okay, are these kids getting screwed over? Or are the players lying? It could go either way. But yeah, you've got to have some sort of understanding of what could be unfolding so you don't end up having to go to court over it.
All right, how about a brief playoff roundup? Were you down for that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get that done.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
There are going to be some of these that are shorter than the Open moving forward. I have a feeling. Last night in the NHL, Game 7 goes to the Edmonton Oilers. They take a 3-0 lead and hold on for dear life in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. I did watch a good portion of that game, especially the whole third period. Edmonton was, I'm not a super hockey head here, but I would compare this to basketball and football especially. They were not playing to win. They were playing not to lose. And they went up 3-0 despite Connor McDavid not doing anything for the vast majority of the game. And then late, they really could have used him to do something because they were desperate.
Yeah, they held on with their fingernails and were able to preserve a 3-2 win at Vancouver to win Game 7 of that series. And the Oilers advanced to take on the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Finals. The conference finals now all set. Edmonton, Dallas out west, Florida, and New York in the east. The John Van Beesbrook Bowl in that
Nice.
one. I've got Florida and Dallas. That's a revolting final. It's just like aesthetically gross.
Yeah, I'll say Florida and Dallas as well. I say Florida wins it all.
Spencer, you been watching much of the hockey since the Caps went out?
No.
Okay.
To be honest with you, no.
Okay. That's fine. Like
Mostly because my TV's being very annoying.
Okay. Well, but if it weren't being annoying, if you had like cool TV, like that was just chill, would you be watching?
Yes.
Okay.
I would a little bit.
Okay. So who do you like? Who do you like in the conference finals?
I think Edmonton.
You like Edmonton over Dallas?
I would like I like watching Edmonton more than I like watching these other teams.
I think it would be.
If I had my choice, it would be them. But I do think the Stars will.
I would like to see Edmonton win a cup because I think that would make sense for Connor McDavid's career to get a Stanley Cup. I think what would make sense for some of the guys on the Dallas Stars, like Jamie Benn and Matt Duchene, is for them to go to prison for life.
Jamie Benn, legit creep, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
all time like that. Like legitimately, nobody likes him. And of course, the Stars make him their captain.
Matt Duchene, that's more beef with the end of his career in Colorado, correct?
Yes. He was a total crybaby and said, I want to go somewhere where I can win. And then they trade him to Ottawa, and he hasn't won jack or squat. Meanwhile, some of the guys he left behind actually have won a Stanley Cup. So yes, I would like Matt Duchene to die ringless for sure.
I will say, while I would like Edmonton to win because the little hockey I do watch, I think they're really fun. Connor McDavid's awesome. Leon Draisaitl's awesome. The young kid. They got a younger guy too who's pretty good. They were talking about him on SportsCenter last night. Can't pick up his name. I apologize. They're fun to watch. It is also way too funny that Canada can't win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
way too funny.
It's a great bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I would not mind maintaining the bit for another year. That no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup since the Montreal Canadiens in 1993.
Literally before I was born, which also includes both Spencer and Trenton as well. None of us were alive last time a Canadian team won a cup.
But I remember I was alive. I remember that Stanley Cup final. Marty McSorley and his illegal stick.
Yeah.
He did. He had too big a curve in his stick. They brought out like a whole curve measuring thing. Like it looked like the thing that measures like your shoe size, and they measured the curve of his stick. And they were like, nope, to the box with you, pal. That's an illegal stick. And Montreal scored the power play, tied the game, won it in overtime. That's game like 2 or 3 of that finals.
That's
Wayne
really
Gretzky
funny.
was on the Kings then.
Yeah.
Patrick Waugh was on the Canadiens. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. 31 years, in fact, long time ago.
So yeah, I kind of like that bit that no Canadian team can win the Stanley Cup, even though the team that wins the cup every year has like 12 Canadian guys at minimum. Like,
minimum.
Canada is seeing plenty of the Stanley Cup. It's just that their fans,
not their teams.
Yeah, don't get to celebrate their teams winning.
Hilarious that it will have been, if Florida wins, that'll be what, 3 of the last 4 years a team from Florida has won?
3 of the last 5.
3 of the last 5.
Yeah, you had the back-to-back titles for Tampa Bay and then Colorado. And
who won last year?
Vegas.
Vegas won last year. That's right. Colorado was 2 years ago. Yeah, hilarious. Absolutely hysterical. Florida hockey better than Canada hockey.
That is a good bit. NBA conference finals start tonight. Eastern Conference Finals, Indiana, Boston, game 1.
Give me Boston in 5.
Yeah.
Indiana's fun. They play fun basketball.
Mm-hmm. Which is to say they score a lot and they don't guard.
Yes, they are the team, the NBA version of the team we always look for in KenPom, who has the best offensive rating and the worst defensive rating combined. Yes. And I want to watch them play. Like, yes, give me Wagner or whoever. No, Wagner was the opposite this year. Indiana is that in the NBA. I just don't think they have enough guys to beat Boston. I think I don't know how well coached Boston is. I don't think especially well coached, but Tatum's a star. Jaylen Brown seems to be paying attention to basketball this playoffs, which is good for them.
They're all the way out of excuses, the Boston Celtics. They are all the way out of excuses. They are healthy. The path in front of them is clear. They are like minus money favorites to win the championship from this point. I think they're minus 160 at FanDuel last I looked to win the whole thing. They are out of excuses. They got to go and put the hammer down. And look, what are they, 8-2 in the postseason? And
something like that.
Like, all that gets attention are the 2 losses and the wins that are closer than maybe they should have been. Nah, man, this is the best team left. I think there was some genuine debate when Denver was still in it as the defending champs, but now that Denver's out, Boston is the best team left. And I think they're going to win this series pretty handily. I
do think they will have one excuse. Everyone's always got an excuse. Very rarely will a fan base say nope, no excuses, even if they want to pretend they have no excuses.
The excuse of
Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, he is out for the start of this series. They're hopeful they could get him back midway through this series, or at least for the NBA Finals if they make it there.
I was going to say I would wait till the finals. I don't think they need him to beat Indiana, to be honest with you. I do think they would need him to win the NBA Finals, though.
I can agree with that.
That does it for the playoff roundup and for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll go around to the NFL with some news and notes next on 580 Sports Talk. A few pieces of NFL news to get to on this Tuesday afternoon. Had a couple retirements over the last couple of days. Yesterday, it was Devontae Parker, the longtime Dolphin, and was for a little bit a New England Patriot as well. 9 seasons in the NFL. He was a first-round pick back in 2014 out of Louisville, was the favorite target at Louisville of Teddy Bridgewater, who also retired a year ago. Or was he at the end of this past season?
I think it was the end of this past.
I think you're right.
He was on the Lions.
That's
and then he
right.
Decided to wear 0 or 55.
Yeah, 55. And I remember
changed his number, and he's like, "This is it." By the way.
Yeah, and I remember there was a picture of him walking off with Dan Campbell. Yeah, that was this season. So Devontae Parker hanging it up. He had a couple of really good years in Miami, and then it just really kind of fell off for him. He was terrible in New England, although everyone was terrible in New England last year. 2 seasons with the Patriots, 64 catches, 933 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yuck. That is not very good. Had 4,700 yards in 7 seasons with Miami, 27 touchdowns for his career. His best year was 2019, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns that season. A decent career for a number 3 receiver. Also, David Johnson from Northern Iowa, who for a brief moment was a superstar, especially in the fantasy football world. Mega star there for a little bit. He could catch. He had a couple 1,000-yard seasons. Then he got traded to Arizona for DeAndre Hopkins.
Even up, I believe.
Yes, I'm sorry. He was with Arizona, got swapped for DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah,
they would have vetoed that trade in your fantasy football league if
Correct.
you tried to make it.
Correct, 100%. Yeah, I remember. According to Pro Football Reference, his nickname is Humble Rumble. That's fake.
No, nobody's ever called him that in his life.
Not even one time. Yeah, 2016. He was first team All-Pro in 2016. Played in every game, 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, had another 4 touchdowns through the air as well. Led the NFL in yards from scrimmage with 2,120 total touchdowns.
Yeah, he was a nice player.
Yeah. Had 900 plus yards rushing for Arizona in 2018, and then just disappeared. He hadn't played in a couple of years. He just made his retirement official this week. But hey, most guys don't ever get a first team All-Pro honor.
No.
Yeah.
So
I got to shout out Devontae Parker, though, because he got that notification about OTAs and was like, you know what? Nah, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this no more. I got 4 kids. I'm not putting myself through this again.
nah.
I'm out. I'm done. Sometimes you just like the late Vontae Davis, who at halftime of the first game of the year was like, man, I am not feeling this anymore. I'm going home.
If I remember correctly, Reggie Wayne also did this. Reggie Wayne, if I remember correctly, showed up in New England, signed a $3 million contract with them, got to the end of training camp, and then said, yeah, I shouldn't have done this. I ain't got it anymore.
That's a different, that's regret. That's you put your body through the training camp. Devontae Parker's like, I didn't want to do OTAs, man. I didn't want to go run routes in shorts and a t-shirt.
No,
that doesn't sound like fun anymore. I've made my money. I'm going to call it good.
See someone around a similar age and Darius Slay out there still making plays, looking limber, and he goes, nah, I ain't got it.
I'm going to take my kids to the park.
That sounds pretty nice.
Watch the NBA playoffs tonight. I'm not worrying about this anymore.
Man, I get it. The other story from the NFL today, Spencer, I think you and I both saw this today.
Yeah.
Australia is now among the countries the NFL is scouting as a potential host for regular season games for the 2025 season and beyond. Peter O'Reilly, who's the NFL's head of international affairs, said today at the league's spring meetings that Australia is among those markets being discussed. The league recently announced that an NFL academy will open in September on the Gold Coast of Australia. O'Reilly said, quote, Australia is among a set, and it's not a small set of markets that we are looking at. O'Reilly noted Australia has a strong NFL fan base and media partners, including both the Eagles and the Rams, who have their global market rights there. I wonder why the Eagles have rights in Australia. I cannot imagine why. It couldn't possibly be because they have an 8-foot-tall, 700-pound offensive tackle who grew up playing Aussie football and rugby, who is now one of the 3 best tackles in the league. Couldn't possibly be.
If it's historical, they also had a punter, Savroka.
Also an Australian. Gave a bunch of Aussies play for the Eagles.
Who are the other Aussies? Wisnowski? Isn't he an Aussie? The punter for the 49ers?
I don't know if he is, actually.
I think he is.
Tory Taylor,
the Iowa punter drafted by the Bears.
Yep. And you are correct. Mitch Wishnowsky is indeed Australian. I did not know that.
Darren Bennett, the OG.
Yeah.
Darren Bennett, Chargers and somebody else. Maybe even the Eagles.
Not in the NFL, but shoot, KU is a Australian punter. Damon Graves, he played in the AFL.
Yeah.
Played for Hawthorn. Scrub. No, just kidding. You play a professional sport anywhere, even for Hawthorn, you're pretty special. But considering putting games in Australia, we do not have any other sites that have been considered that are listed here. We do know that next season, so not 24, but in 2025, there will be a game in Spain at Real Madrid's stadium. So they're going to play in Spain at Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Bernabeu, thank you. That's the first time I'd seen that name before. Not my cup of tea normally. We know Brazil is getting a game this year. Obviously, the London and Germany games as well. They've played in Mexico. They've played in Canada. There are plenty of NFL fans in Australia. Yeah. That is for sure. That's different, though, than even going to England 7 hours away. That's different than flying to Germany 8 hours away.
They did say Dublin.
Okay, Dublin. All right,
that's among the markets being considered.
Makes sense.
The only one that they've named.
Okay, that makes sense, though. They host college football games already, for better or for worse. K-State will be there in 2025. Australia is a really long way away.
Do you know what time it is in Sydney right now?
It would have to be, what is it, like
Wednesday?
So it is 5:44 here in Topeka, Kansas.
Around 7:45 a.m.?
It is 8:44 a.m. tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wednesday,
in
22nd.
Sydney. So, like, the logistics of, you're going to put this game in prime time across the country. So 6:40. When does Sunday Night Football kick off?
7:20.
7:20 Central?
Yeah.
Or is that Eastern?
That's Central.
Okay. So say it's Eastern. Let's say 8:20 Eastern. So that would be 2 hours from now. That would mean that you are putting a game on at like 11 in the morning the next day.
If you were to
for
play
it to be in prime time in the United States.
If you were,
that's how they'd have to do it, right?
Yeah, that's how they would have to. If you were going to put a game in Australia, you would have to. You could not do this, in my opinion, until you expand the schedule to 18 games, which I'm not necessarily in favor of, but it's going to happen at some point. It is what it is. And go with 2 bye weeks, because you would have to do bye before, game in Australia, bye after. That's way too much long distance travel to then you're already a day ahead, to then travel for 22 hours or whatever it is, get back, and then, hey, you got full practice tomorrow. You're playing Sunday night.
Or you open the season a week early there.
Like college football does in Ireland?
Or like they're doing it with the Brazil game. You play it on like a Friday night, week 1. You do it week 1, and then you have an extra day.
Yeah.
And then your bye is week 2. I don't know if that'd be...
It would be early. Yeah. But I get why they're trying to expand. I get why they're trying to put games in other countries. That's just so much travel. Like, that's more egregious than saying, well, what if we put a team in London? Which, by the way, we didn't get to this last week. That's not going to happen anytime soon, because the Jaguars have signed a new 30-year deal to stay in Jacksonville. So
I wonder if their deal is like the Chiefs deal that they signed, where they're not allowed to play overseas.
No, that's actually part of the contract. They're still going to play a game in London every year.
Interesting.
Yes. It's a fascinating. We don't have a whole lot of time. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. I was reading all about it. Stadium is half owned by the city, half owned by the team, and the Jags are going to cover all the excess costs that they haven't planned for. Very interesting. Anyway, it's like, even that's untenable to put a team over there with free agency and the travel and all that. to play even one game in Australia would be a nightmare logistically. I have a hard time seeing that happen anytime soon. Coming up next, we'll get you ready for Royals versus Tigers game 2 tonight. This is 580 Sports Talk. Royals Tigers tonight. Pregame begins in 10 minutes on the Royals Radio Network. You'll be able to hear that here on 580 WIBW. First pitch at 6:40. Alec Marsh getting the call for the Royals tonight. It'll be Casey Mize going for the Tigers. Once upon a time, Casey Mize was a really big-time prospect, and it wasn't really clicking for him at the start of his career. I mean, his first year back in 2020, made 7 appearances in the COVID year, ERA of 7, almost 7 flat. 2021, better, 3.71 ERA, outperformed his peripherals by quite a bit. Not good at all in only 2 outings in 22.
Blew his arm.
Yeah, didn't play at all last year due to that injury. But he's been solid, 3.50 ERA for the season. Striking out just 6.6 per 9. That's not a good number.
Yeah, not missing a ton of bats, but keeping the ball in the ballpark, not walking a lot of guys either. Just kind of a guy, which is not really the outcome you hope for when you draft a guy 1-1. But
Yeah.
Steady mid-rotation caliber pitching is not easy to come by, and he appears to at least be capable of that for Detroit. Alec Marsh has looked more than capable of that for the Royals. Should be another good pitchers duel, and then tomorrow we'll get the main event, the showstopper pitching matchup with Skubal and Reagans. Royals get one of these. They've already locked up a winning homestand. We've talked about. You want to win your homestands. You want to play 500 ball on the road. Royals, no matter what happens these next 2 days, it's a winning homestand. 4 wins in 4 on a 6-game homestand. That's a good homestand.
Yeah.
Let's have a great one. Win one of these next 2.
That would be phenomenal.
Or win them both. Have a perfect homestand. Because this is one of the best home teams in baseball. Royals are 19-8 at the K.
I think they're 12-6 right through the month right now.
Something like that. Yeah, they've been hot. By the way, Casey Mize was number 1 pick in 2018. Draft with a lot of guys who are considered pretty highly at the time. Alec Boehm, who's had a nice career for Philadelphia. Jared Kelenic, who hasn't worked out, but he was a big-time prospect. That, of course, was also the year that the Royals took Brady Singer. That was the 2018 class. Brady Singer, Jackson Kowar, all those guys. I haven't mentioned the most famous draft pick from that year, though. He's the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray went with the 9th overall pick in that year's draft. Coming up next, we'll wrap up this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk with today's final word. Let's wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word. Dan, you are up first today.
David Lesky pointed this out on Twitter last night. Royals games almost feel exactly the same these days, like a really good starting outing. The middle innings is when the Royals offense seems to erupt, and then they win kind of comfortably. The 6th inning has been magic for the Royals this year. They're OPSing over 900 as a team in the 6th inning. And I, for one, credit the Rally M&Ms from that delightful couple my wife and I met in section 311 the other day. So keep that Rally M&Ms, keep those Rally M&Ms on deck for another one tonight.
Spencer, what you got?
The Royals have a chance to win their 31st game of the regular season tonight. I think that's only been done this early, like one other time in their history.
Yeah, that best season they ever had, or best start in 76, was it?
The Whitey Herzog area.
Yeah, better the start than the World Series championship year.
Stacking wins, you never know what can happen towards the end of the year.
Final word for me today. We know what the schedule format is going to be for Big 12 basketball this coming year. And to be frank, I don't like it. I don't like that there's no bye. I don't like that there is no time off during the Big 12 season. And not just because, well, you're KU fans, you're bitter. Nah, man, this affects everybody. And you know what that means? It affects you when you're getting ready for the NCAA tournament. You want to be at your best. Even one extra week off can help you when you get ready for the big dance. Those are going to be some worn out teams heading into March. We're back tomorrow. We will join you live following Royals postgame. Until then, for Dan, for Spencer, for Trenton, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.